Good evening, Crimson Tide Nation, and welcome to the 21st edition of the Alabama Crimson Tide Call-In Show right here on Alabama, the Voice College Football, and the Voice College Football @Twitter account, where we take your calls on the Alabama Call-In Show. I'm yours truly, Jackson Johnson, and I have with me is my partner in crime, Jeffrey. It only talks sports, but he talks sports every single day, or at least he tries to. And let me tell you something, folks. You'll be in for a wild ride as always on the Alabama Call-In Show Thursday nights, especially tonight. How you doing tonight, good buddy?
Doing pretty good, Jackson. Like you said, it's always a wild ride. Conversation can go anywhere. We always make an effort to keep it about Alabama and the SEC, but in the long run, the show is eventually gonna go down some rivers and valleys. We're gonna take the conversation many which ways. So if you love Alabama football, this is definitely a show for you. You're definitely not gonna want to miss it. Lots of great Alabama coverage, but if you also like just crazy, bizarre stuff, you'll like the show as well, especially toward the end. You get in the late hours, it's not after dark. It will never be like after dark.
No,
on the Voice of College Football, but you get a little slice of after dark over here.
Oh yeah, After Dark will scar the children. It's for the teenagers that are watching stuff behind their mom and dad's back.
Oh yeah. And a lot of people do. I mean, how can you keep a teenager from watching what he wants, And I mean, we keep it PG, basically, but for the most part,
Oh yeah. It's like this show's appropriate enough for the kids. No worries. We don't let anything out too bad.
Maybe they shouldn't be awake though at midnight though, because again, it could get a little interesting by then. But
and the first to greet us is one of our YouTube members, the Godfather of the SEC, giving out a hello and giving out a Roll Tide with the Alabama emoji. Let's go.
Absolutely.
Oh,
can't beat that emoji, man.
That's how you can be able to throw out those emojis in the live chat. And for $2.99 a month, you can become a Crimson Faithful member on Alabama at the Voice College Football. And in return, you get to give out a custom emoji in the chat and in the comment section. And you get member shout outs and a loyalty badge next to your name. For $4.99 a month, you can hang out with yours truly, Jackson Johnson, Jeffrey Don't Talk Sports, Coach Johnny Burtz, our new guys doing the Alabama Primetime Show Tuesday night, Brady Quoto and Manny Wilson. You can hang out with each of us, and you get priority replies to comments. And you only have to pay $4.99 a month by becoming a Saban disciple. And for $9.99 a month, you can connect on social media with each of us and give out content requests of any kind. And neither rain, nor sleet, nor snow will put a stop to fulfilling your request on Alabama at the Voice College Football. Let me tell you something. We're going to fulfill it, man. That we can guarantee.
Fantastic deal. One of the best on YouTube, right? I mean, you get a lot of perks. Definitely a lot of reasons to be a member of Alabama at the Voice of College Football. And definitely appreciate everyone who already is a member. Like you said, the Godfather of the SEC, Breakaway 34, and a few others as well. Appreciate your guys' support and contributions to the channel. And I always love you when you guys are in the chat as well. Because, again, you guys make the show with your comments and questions and all that kind of stuff. You can't beat it. And I'm definitely appreciate you guys for all your support.
Well, there's one guy you're forgetting. Certain somebody that hosts Only Talk Sports.
I got the Alabama emoji as well on there.
There we go. Let's go. All righty.
It's kind of hard to shout out myself, right? Like, got to shout out the others.
Well, that's what I'm here for.
Appreciate it, man.
Oh, you're welcome, man. Well, the Easter Beagle and the Easter Bunny are teaming up. They're doing some collaboration, especially for 420. You know what that is to bring us? It's not Easter candy, but the disputed national champions, College Football's Historical 1990s Reset, written by Mark Rogers. And in this book, you're going to learn about what happened during the 90s, why the championship results should be questioned, how the decade changed sport, how to critically think through the scenarios, and to appreciate the accomplishments of teams that were not recognized as champions. This book provides an in-depth analysis of the changes, controversies, and outcomes that defined the decade of college football. It challenges readers to explore and critically evaluate the decisions that shaped the national championship landscape. Unlock the mysteries of college football's most debated decade. Grab your copy now.
Yeah, and you don't want to be like Charlie Brown, who didn't end up with an egg. You know, you don't want to miss out on Mark Rogers' book. So definitely be a fantastic Easter present for the college football fan in your life. Definitely, though, every time I watch the Easter Beagle, though, there is one scene in particular that always cracks me up. And just forget the Peppermint Patty and Marcy egg scenes with all the disastrous attempts to just literally paint eggs. Like, how do you mess that up? I mean, putting it in the waffle iron and all that kind of stuff. But the scene that goes over the top for me is, you remember this, Jackson, because I know you've seen it every year, is when Snoopy first is going around and he's just throwing around eggs all over the field. And it's like any one of those could have been Charlie Brown's egg. He had plenty. He's just chucking them. He's just chucking them all over the field, right? All over the place to nobody. Just oh, it's the Easter Beagle. Look at him. He's throwing eggs everywhere. And then Charlie Brown at the very end, it's like, I don't have any for you. And it's like, are you kidding me? You chuck like 25 of them everywhere. I mean, I can't help but when I watch that every year, it just laugh my butt off. Like, I know they purposely did that. I know, like, that was purposeful. 110%. Charles Schultz is like, all right, let's do this. Like, it'll make it even funnier, because it is. I mean, it cracks me up. It's like, you got to be kidding me.
I know, right?
At least with the Valentine's Day one, right? Where Charlie Brown doesn't get a Valentine until he gets a used one at the end. It's like, at least with that, we didn't see the box.
No,
we didn't see the box. So we didn't, with the Valentine. So it's like there were any more, but they didn't have his name on it anyway. But still, it's like that's fair. But then the Easter one, they just completely just throw caution out of the wind and just create one of the most hilarious scenes ever for no reason. It's so funny. The Valentine's Day one, the part that cracks me up is where Linus, he thinks he can fit that big chocolate box in that little slit. It's like, are you he's like, we try to squeeze it in there. It's like, dude, how you're not gonna fit that in? You are not gonna fit that in. Like, and then he's like, this will be my perfect chance to give my Valentine's to Miss Offmore. And it's like, dude, you had like an hour. You just
he's running with my Valentine. He's running with my Valentine.
And he's running to Miss Offmore's car. Oh, she's out there with her boyfriend. It's like, are you kidding me right now, man? He couldn't get it. And the fact that the kids were still in the class and the teacher's gone. And the other part that cracked me up is Violet. You remember Violet, the girl in the green dress, yep. Right? Yep. She said she had a man teacher who had a beard. And yet she's in the same class with Charlie Brown and the others that is supposed to be in Miss Offmore's class. How does that even make sense? I love finding continuity errors in Charlie Brown. I swear they did these on purpose. They make it funnier. It's kind of like, if you remember in The Great Pumpkin at the beginning when Lucy and Linus are going out to the pumpkin patch, right? And then when there's no fence, but then when they come back, then there's a fence where he can't fit through. It's like, it's stuff like that. There was no fence when they went out there, but of course there's going to be a fence on the way back where he can't fit. I don't know. I'm telling you, you watch every single Charlie Brown special and there's something in it that's just dumb. It's just...
I swear, sometimes I think we're kind of like the guy on Animaniacs, where he's just like sitting on his little chair. He's just like, they did these little errors to make us mad. Like, that's what they did,
Yeah, it's
It's
to get our
pay
attention to
for
see if we're paying attention.
it's pay or play, not pay for play.
It's so funny, man. I love the errors though, and like I said, I really feel that a lot of them were purposeful. I swear. You know, like the Mandela effect. It's great, man. You can't beat those old Charlie Brown specials, man. They're so good. They're so good. I don't know. I think the Christmas one's my favorite, but all of those early ones, like the first like 10 years or so, like the Christmas one was in 1965, and then I think the Valentine's and the Easter one were in the 70s.
Yeah, the Easter.
Then after that, like they're not as good after that to me.
Yeah.
I like all the Charlie Brown specials, and I've seen most of them. I've seen probably 80% of them. There's a few that I haven't seen, mostly the newer ones, honestly. But yeah, I mean, most of them are really, really good. But those first like decade or so Charlie Brown specials are the best. They're hilarious.
Well, I mean, they got a Mother's Day one on Apple TV, but I'm just like, the heck with it. I'll just watch it on another website. I mean, it's like I'm spending off my old Peacock, you know.
Yeah, I think the last Charlie Brown like special or movie or whatever that I ever watched, it was probably the rerun Christmas one. I Want a Dog for Christmas. I watched that one. I was like in 2003. I don't think I've watched any of the ones past that.
I watched that Peanuts movie. It was pretty good.
I did not watch that movie. I mean, I've seen a little bit of it, you know, like clips and stuff, but I have not seen the whole movie. But yeah, I watched the rerun. I Want a Dog for Christmas. I love, man, when Lucy's trying to feed Spike, man. I don't know if you remember that. Trying to feed Spike.
He's like a skinny little
You made him lose weight again. You made him skinny again. It's like, dude, I love it. He's sitting out there. He's like, he's trying to get a ride. He's trying to hitch a ride. He's just sitting out there in the tumbleweeds, man. He built a tumbleweed, man, instead of a snowman. Again, I've seen all the older ones, man. I just think they crack me up. They crack me up.
Oh, man. But well, we'll have to make sure we don't get too off topic because there's a certain team trying to get to 1 seed, trying to get back at it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the Alabama Crimson Tide, and we got that game against Tennessee. I mean, it's like an opportunity for us.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we got Tennessee coming up this Saturday. We got Florida coming up next Wednesday, although, let's be honest, they're out of the top 2. Are they going to be out of the top 4? Now, that's up for discussion. Mm-hmm. Is Auburn still going to be number 1 by next Saturday? We'll find out after they get done with Kentucky. But Alabama has a prime shot to get back at the 1 seed. Now, I hope it does happen, and I would love to see Alabama beat Tennessee, but apparently they've had a hard time in Knoxville over the past few times. Can they get back to that 1 seed or no?
I mean, it's almost impossible to imagine them winning all 3 games. But if they did, they could possibly, and I repeat loosely, very possibly be the number 1 overall seed. I mean, if you beat, you know, like, think about it. For Alabama to end the season on a 5-game, the regular season on a 5-game win streak of Kentucky, Mississippi State, Tennessee, Florida, and Auburn, if they did that, I think Alabama would be the number 1 overall seed. Now, if Alabama wins, you know, like 1 of those games, you know, then not even 2. If they win 1 of those games, I think Alabama's still on the 1 line. I mean, they're playing top 5 team after top 5 team. I would think that they would still be on the 1 line, especially if they beat Tennessee, because Tennessee's one of their biggest threats for that, you know, 1 spot. So like if Alabama loses to Tennessee, that could maybe boost Tennessee up, maybe. So I think if Alabama beats Tennessee, they don't really have to worry about Florida and Auburn because those two teams are, more than likely going to be one seeds. Florida did kind of hurt themselves with that Georgia loss,
Oh,
but I think that, Alabama is on the one line right now. And all they have to do to be a 1 seed is at worst probably go 1-2 in the final 3, and then win a couple games in the SEC tournament, and then they're going to be a 1 seed. They can't lose all 3. I don't think they if they go 0-3, that's going to be too many losses. They'll be a 2 seed, but at worst they're going to be a 2. Because like I said, Alabama's already a 1 seed. It's just, are they going to lose all 3 and end up being a 2 seed? Can they win all 3 and be the number 1 overall seed, or are they going to go 1-2, 2-1, and that would probably keep them on the one line as they already are?
Well, and there's one other factor too: the SEC tournament.
Yeah,
because we go 2-1. I mean, we're still in line for the 1 seed, of course. But if we were to win the SEC tournament afterwards, boom, we're in as a 1 seed. We lose in the quarterfinals, there may be a debate. Semifinals, debate. But you lose in the title game, you're 1 seed. You're 1 seed. Because the SEC title game is hours before Selection Sunday. So that's one thing to really think about.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that if Alabama wins the SEC tournament, then especially depending if they go at least 2-1 in the final 3 regular season games, Alabama would be probably the number 1 overall seed. If they go 2-1 and lose in the semifinals, they'll be a 1 seed. They won't be the number 1 overall, but they'll be a 1 seed. If they go 1-2, probably have to make the semifinal game to still for certain be a 1 seed. And then if they go 0-3, then they'd have to run the table in the SEC tournament, at least get to the final to probably remain on the 1 line. Because there's a lot of competition for those final spots. Houston's, there. Florida's there. Tennessee is close. So, I mean, it's not a guarantee Bama's going to be a 1 seed. But if they win 2 of these final 3 games, they're going to be a 1 seed. There's no doubt in my mind. I mean, they already have so many great wins. And you add 2 more wins against top 5 to 7 teams, yeah, you're going to be a 1 seed. But they have to do that, and we'll see. I think they'll win at least 1. I mean, the problem is, at Tennessee, at Auburn, you could say, well, maybe they'll get revenge on Auburn because they lost at home. Maybe. But, realistically, the most likely win is probably the home game. I know Florida's really good, but, again, we just saw Florida lose at Georgia. So maybe, Bama could win that. And probably the swing game's Tennessee. Because at times, even though Tennessee is a great team, there are moments where Tennessee just still is a little shaky sometimes to me. They are much better than they've been. But I still, kind of wonder, will they kind of fade down the stretch, again, lose a couple games and then have an early March exit? I will say Rick Barnes has done a better job recently of getting Tennessee further in the tournament, but that was a major problem for him for the vast majority of his time at Tennessee. He was getting to the point where it was because people remember his days at Texas too, or he never really advanced far. Can this guy advance? So they've been advancing a little bit more, but still Tennessee can let you down sometimes. So I think Alabama's in great shape. They're in fantastic shape, especially considering when you look at the bubble. The bubble's a mess. So the fact that Alabama's a 1 seed when in years past they mostly were a bubble team or not even in the field. It's remarkable Alabama's even in this situation right now. Nate Oates, how far they've come, it's amazing. And that's why people are calling them a new blood. If Alabama can win a title, then I really think you could call them a new blood. But yeah, they're amazing. They're fantastic. And the defense a little bit sketchy at times, but their offense is incredible. And I win 2 of the next 3, and they're a 1 seed for sure.
Yeah,
no matter what happens in the SEC tournament.
Oh yeah, but at the same time, it's kind of even if they're not 1 seed, they'll be fine. They'll be fine. We just have to get the kinks worked out before the end of February, the end of the regular season. and we should be good to go. Like we and the conference tournament as well. Like we do that, we're good to go.
Mm.
And we got our guy Ben from Exploring with Ben and Sam in Oregon in the at the Voice College Football in chat. Oh God. Oh God.
Yeah, it's more like Spaz and Ben. Like Spaz stopped bothering Ben, right? Like I mean that's that's always a fun time on After Dark or on the Oregon channel. I love that.
Oh man.
I mean, we had the counter of how many times he was going to curse him out.
Oh man. Oh man. Like I still get a laugh out of Spaz's comment when I mentioned the Oregon where it was like it was the way Spaz said it. Where he was like, go take your foghorn leghorn and spang it up Bama's backyard.
That's so funny. Sports Talk with Austin says Alabama's defense is awful. I don't know if Bama can win. I'm assuming not scoring 80. I mean, yeah, that's the liability. I mean, I don't really think anybody's necessarily picking Alabama to win it all. I mean, there's probably going to be a few people, but I wouldn't pick them to win it all as of now. I mean, I will say that Mississippi State game gives me more confidence, but it's one game. It's kind of like Indiana. Had to throw in an Indiana reference finally. It's kind of like when Indiana beat Purdue. Yeah, Indiana's defense was incredible in that game. But then you saw in this past game against Penn State, and it wasn't as good. You know what I'm saying? Like, they still won. Still are on the right side of the bubble right now, but didn't defend as well. And I think that's what you're going to get with Bama. I think we've seen Nate Oates. You've seen a little bit of a resurgence of defense, prioritization for Alabama basketball. But I don't know if it's going to last because at the end of the day, Bama is just such a high octane offense that it is difficult to play great defense. You know, when you're that fast on offense, it's just difficult. That's why teams like Virginia, with Tony Bennett, with Kyle Guy and Ty Jerome and DeAndre Hunter, those guys, that team. It's like, yeah, they had a great defense, but they're slow. Like on offense, they barely move, except Kyle Guy coming off screens that season. So it's like they're not getting wore out. That's why I don't know if you remember Jackson, but like the good Leonard Hamilton teams at Florida State, the good teams, right? The ones he had like 2018, 19, 20, whatever. He had like 10, 11 guys playing because they were basically pressing all game on defense. Like they worked their can off on defense. So he would rotate and rotate and rotate. So they never get tired. Bama's got depth, but they don't have that much depth. And Auburn kind of does that. Bruce Pearl's had a few seasons where he's played like 10, 11 guys. You can only play such great defense for so long when you're only playing like 6, 7 guys. And it makes it even worse in the case of Alabama when, again, such a high-octane offense, they're putting all of their effort and energy on offense that they don't prioritize defense as much. Sometimes they don't even get back on defense quick enough for the other team scores. So that is the liability, and all it takes is for Alabama basketball to have one game in the tournament where they don't shoot that particularly well and they lose, especially if they're not defending, because defense wins championships. You have to have offense, but defense can help you grind out a game kind of like this. Michigan, to Austin's point, beat Nebraska in one of the ugliest games of the season. The game sucked. It was terrible. But if you liked defense and no offense, then it was the game for you. But yeah, Michigan, I mean, ironically with Michigan, they're having a great season, right? Like Dusty May's getting a contract extension. Indiana fans are upset, like, hey, we're not going to get Dusty May. We're upset now, whatever. So it's like everything's going great for Michigan. Do you know how many games Michigan has won this year by 4 points or less? 8. So if Michigan loses every one of those games, imagine their season. They're 500.
Mm-hmm.
Michigan has found ways to win. Now, does that mean they're a great team? I'm not saying that. But they have found ways to win. They barely beat Indiana. They barely beat Nebraska. They barely beat a ton of teams. They just barely won. But at the end of the day, it counts. So obviously Michigan knows how to grind out wins, or at least this year. We'll see if Dusty may keep it going in the future. Kind of reminds me how the Vikings kept winning that year. They kept winning all those close games, and then they choked in the playoffs. I'm not saying Michigan's going to do that in the tournament, but I'm just saying that when you win a lot of close games, it's not necessarily a great sign. It's just going to continue.
And it means you're going to have a rebuilding year next year.
Unless you can just reload in the portal in college sports anyway. Because that's practically what Michigan did this year. I mean, Dusty May was his first year of the Michigan job. So he had to bring in a lot of transfers. So, if he can reload, then he'll probably be fine. But, yeah, especially in the NFL, yeah, you definitely going to have to reload because it's not as simple as it's just getting portal guys.
Well, and the Godfather of the SEC says I need to be on the After Dark show. Well, it's on Sunday nights at 9:30 p.m. Central Time. And you can become a YouTube member for the Voice of College Football by becoming a Heisman member, where you have to pay $9.99 a month, where you can give out content requests for the Voice of College Football Network, and you can be on After Dark. And I'm going to tell you right now, they need some shining stars. I think you can be one of them, Godfather of the SEC. It's like an investment for the future.
Yeah, I agree. After Dark's always fun. I mean, we've had a lot of fun times on there, Jackson. I haven't been on there in a while, but it is always a great time over there at the Voice.
But can't rot your brain sometimes.
Oh yeah, I mean, I will say I don't dive down the rabbit hole because I don't want to look at that junk. But I will say though that I've seen enough of brain rot, actual brain rot on social media, that After Dark is just philosophical, information at that point. Like it's deep compared to actual brain rot. But yeah, I will say that After Dark can borderline get there sometimes. Especially, I mean, depending on the panel members. But that's what makes it fun, though. When you got the colorful cast of characters, all like all of us on there. If I'm on there, you or Spaz or Ben, whoever it is, it's a great time, and the different personalities really play off each other, and it just makes for a great. It's not like SNL, when it was good, like 40 years ago, but the thing is that it's just a low stakes, like just it's just a vibes show. You just vibing. I don't usually use that word much, but that's about all you can say. It's just a great time. You know what I'm saying? Especially when the show gets really late, kind of like ours does sometimes. If it's like 1 a.m., the conversation just really goes off the rails sometimes. And it's great. It is a great time. I haven't had any time to get on there, but I do love being on After Dark. Austin says, Jeffrey's brain is shot. His Stanford education's gone. Laughing out loud. Appreciate that, Austin. I mean, yeah, the brain rot is real, though. How much of brain rot have you seen, Jackson? Just going off topic of that. You've seen a lot of it. Okay, you've seen more than me. I've seen a bit.
Yeah.
Like I know about that garbage toilet meme that everybody talks about. That's probably old news by now, but you remember that? I don't even want to say the first word because it's so bad. It's so stupid. I mean, the thing is Gen Alpha, man, it just laps that stuff up. I've been like in stores before, Jackson. I've been places where you just hear kids. You just hear kids just talking to their parents, man, and they're just repeating the brain rot. And the parents are like, "What are you even talking about? What is this? What is this toilet guy and all this other stuff?" And they're like, "It's so cool, Ma." And I mean, the thing is, I don't know if you've ever heard the Sigma thing, right? You've heard about the Sigma thing, right?
I think so.
And like I laugh at that because it's like Sigma is supposed to be in for actual like important stuff. It's the Greek symbol and statistics. You know what I'm saying? Like that E symbol. I don't know if anybody in the chat remembers statistics in in school, but you have this Greek E, and that's called sigma. And it tells you to add. That's what sigma is. So when everybody kept saying sigma and all that on the internet, I'm like, are they talking about statistics? And then like 4-year-old kids are saying, I'm like, okay, they're not talking about statistics. And I'm just like, what is this stuff? It doesn't have any value. I mean, it's dumb. Like yeah, we can go off the rails sometimes on this show and on After Dark, but we never get to the point where it's just completely dumb. Like it's just mind-numbingly stupid. It doesn't get like that. I mean, brain rot, I'm telling you, man, I've never seen like how like I never thought that you could have content that was just so lowbrow and so dumb as modern day brain rot. And people said brain rot in the past was like, okay, we're talking Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon. That was brain rot 20 years ago. That stuff is great. Like lessons could be learned, right? Like, you know, like Hey Arnold taught lessons, you know, like
yeah.
I mean,
don't be like Oscar.
Ren and Stimpy didn't, but
oh man, Ren and Stimpy. Oh man, it's like,
but yeah, don't be like Oscar. Yeah, I mean, like some of the shows had morals and values and stuff, but now modern day brain rot. I think parents back then were a little bit harsh on those shows. If they only knew what brain rot would become,
they wouldn't have liked the Red moments where he's just like, he's got the TV static going where he's just like, I was nice today. Those dirty children. That stupid idiot Stimpy. Man, they love him. Oh, the powerful hands. And with these hands, I hold the fate of millions. But I'm going to do the Stampions van. Oh, and they're gonna fall. And I'm gonna look down and I'm gonna laugh.
I don't know if anybody in chat gets that reference, but that's great, man. I love it.
Well, I think John was a 90s kid. So
man, he probably knows. He probably knows. I also laugh too, man.
Thank you for the shout out, John. We appreciate
the shout out, John. Definitely appreciate it. And definitely everybody here go check out Michigan, the voice of college football as well. You know, it's even if you're an SEC fan, you go chat it up about which conference is better. Why Alabama should have won over Michigan and all that sorts of stuff. So definitely support Michigan, the voice of college football, and all the other channels as well, part of the community. I laugh too at Rocco's Modern Life, man, because that show,
right?
You remember the frog lady, right?
Oh, Mrs. Bighead.
Dude, Mrs. Bighead, man. I'm like, oh my God. This is not a kid's cartoon. Like, come on, man. This is not a kid's cartoon.
Mind your own business, Ed. Mind your own business.
Those shows were great. Yeah, I mean they were more kind of brain rot, but they're not brain rot like today, man. That's why I stay off TikTok. Honestly, I just no TikTok. It's too much. I mean, I understand business reasons from people, you know, like it. I don't know, man. I wouldn't say I never, you know, would be on there, but I don't know, man. I don't like it, man. It's too much. It's too much garbage material. It's just garbage. I mean, it's kind of calling it brain rot. It's just garbage.
Well, that's because they've been nice today.
Also said, I see Jackson is feeling better. I think he's got superpowers to heal quickly. And that's a good superpower to have, man.
Allergy season was coming, but secret, I stayed in a lot. Yeah,
when the pollen starts to fall from the trees, and it sucks, man, because like spring comes, it's like spring's getting around the corner, right? You start getting some warm days, man. You put the shorts back on, you're going outside. It's like, yes, it's warm again. And then pollen. And it's like, it's forcing you to go back in. It's like, you're making me wait even longer to enjoy the warmth. Yeah, it's so frustrating. Oh, no. Godfather of the SEC, it's fun to talk. Oh, boy. Yes, the thing is, it's amazing to me how short, like, TikTok has existed. Like it's only didn't it like wasn't it created like in 2017, 2018, something like
Yeah,
that?
20 is I thought it was October 2016, but it turned out to be September 2016.
2016. So it hasn't even been out a decade yet, right? And it's so a part of American culture now, and it's a Chinese organization. It's unbelievable to me. You know, people just like I know some people that can't go an hour without like at least checking something on
I've
TikTok.
got some of those family members where it's like they have
Why? I mean, yeah. I mean, people are, well, you're on Twitter and YouTube. It's like, yeah, but I don't check it every hour for the most part. I mean, now if there's stuff going on like in the sports for like a game, a big game or news or whatever, yeah, I check it. But I mean, I can go a week without looking at Twitter if I wanted to. And I sometimes don't even post for a while. You know, like I like getting off of it. I like going out and getting the fresh air, man. Like, you know, I don't want to turn into a ghost or anything. But, you know, like some people just are addicted to that stuff. I mean, I treat it the same way as like alcohol and other addictions. I mean, I understand that it's not as dangerous to be addicted to social media, I guess, unless it does affect your mental health, then it's dangerous. But, you know, if it's not affecting your mental health and it's not as dangerous as, you know, alcohol and other substance abuses, but it's still a problem. I mean, when you're spending like most of your day and a lot of your life just scrolling on the internet, just checking social media and TikTok, that's not a good thing. And I know people, oh, it's a boomer tag. I don't care. It is. It's not good at all. I mean, I tend to see that people that are outside more are happier than people that are inside all the time, but that's just my opinion. I don't have any
I think
scientific
you're
evidence to
accurate
back
on
that up,
that.
but I think it's
I
true.
think, yeah, because it's like people that are spend their time watching like cable news all the time or on the
Of course
internet
they're
all
not happy. That
they're
stuff's filth.
miserable, they're mad. You know, the apocalypse is coming, and it's
Dude,
like,
we've heard all I know about. I'm not getting political or not, but this is just basic fact, man. But like I've heard for like the last 20 years, basically the whole time I've been alive, that the world's gonna end by 2020 or 2030. Dude, I don't know when the world's gonna end or if it ends or whatever. I don't know. But I mean, saying this general trash is not gonna happen. You got no evidence. I mean, I've seen people say that the polar, you know, like ice caps are going to melt. Has it melted? No. Oh, the sea's going to rise and America is going to be underwater. California is going to break off from the it's just a bunch of stupid mess. I mean, yeah, okay, like some of the coastlines, like the water's risen a little bit. Okay, like a few inches or something. Or the temperature's gotten warm. I mean, you remember that was a big deal, right? Jackson, people were like, oh, the ice is gonna melt, like it's gonna be bad, all that kind of stuff. The last few years, it's been colder on average around the world than it was 10 years ago. I mean, if you look throughout history, all you gotta do is research. Like throughout history, like each 500 to 1,000 years, there's fluctuations, right? There's fluctuations in temperature. Like you had the ice age a long time ago. And then it's like it gets warmer and then it gets cold. It goes up and down. Our planet is the only habitual planet where you can be outside and not die. You know what I'm saying? Like they want to explore Mars, right? Well, it's the weather sucks. You know what I'm saying? There's a reason why we're on this planet and not any of those other ones. I mean, if those planets were habitual, then we'd be there. You know, I mean, I think it's cool you want to explore it or whatever and send people there, but it's not livable. You know what I'm saying? It's not livable. I think it's just dumb, honestly, that like people want to go there and live. Like, oh, have you seen this, Jackson? Or people like, oh, the world is going to heck in a handbasket. I'm going to go to Mars and that's going to make it better. People go to Mars, the same problems are going to be there that are here. You got people there, don't you? If you got people, there's gonna be problems. I mean, that's all you can say, man. You can go to Pluto and debate whether it's a planet or not and live on it.
oh yeah,
And it's not gonna matter. It's not gonna matter, man. If there's more than one person on that planet, all you need or whatever they call Pluto now, dwarf planet, 2 people on it, and you're still gonna have a problem. You're still gonna have a problem.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, all you need is two people, and arguments are going to happen. Disagreements are going to happen. That's the human experience. Like I said, if people want to explore Mars, whatever. But I'm just saying, America, and the world and Earth and all that, China, everywhere a part of this globe that we are currently on, that's livable. And Mars isn't, Venus isn't, Mercury isn't. I mean, because Mercury and Venus are too hot, and then Mars is cold, but it's like technically livable, even though there's like no water hardly. And then after that, it's just freezing. After you go past Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Venus, Uranus, all that, it's cold. It's freezing. So, I mean, again, it's hilarious people want to go there. I know this has nothing to do with the show, but I'm just saying people just make me laugh with some of the stuff that people say, man, on social media. It's like, oh, we got to do this. We got to do this. Like, no, no, we don't.
Oh.
No, we don't.
Oh. There we go. And we have our first callers of the night. We got our first caller. He is the host of Rutgers at the Voice of College Football. Well, co-host with Gabriel Pickup. Monday nights or Tuesday nights, but either way, you're going to see some great magic from this man, Adam Lamparello.
Hey guys, how are you doing?
Today? Oh, we're doing good. How are you doing tonight?
All right, thanks so much for having me on. After a long day, it's good to talk about Alabama football. I just have a couple of questions.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you think that DeBoer is the right guy for Alabama? And if not, who do you think the next coach should be?
The second question is really hard.
I think DeBoer's the right guy. I mean, we're fine right now with him.
I think DeBoer's the right guy. I mean, I am concerned with, like Bama's position right now because it is unstable. I feel like his tenure is vastly going to be determined on this season because, if they have a good year this year, then he's probably going to be fine. And they're going to be able to, build on it and get back towards the top of the elite of college football. But if they have a bad year, then I don't know if he can recover. And it's such an uncertain year because we don't know the quarterback. A lot of roster turnovers, just a lot of questions. Ryan Grubb, that's a positive, as we talked about, I think, last week. But just a lot of uncertainty. So if he has a bad year, then I'm concerned. And on that question, I mean, on the second question, I don't know. I mean, because it's really hard to think of who would be the next coach when, Kalen DeBoer is only going into his second year. He's not on the brink of being fired yet. And like there could be other hires made at other jobs that open, like maybe this year that would take potential candidates out of the race. So it would be hard to figure out.
Yeah, when I think about last season, my first concern is that, well, let me say this: DeBoer is an excellent coach. There's no question about that, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for him. What I worry about is the culture at Alabama. I think Nick Saban had a very strict, regimented culture for a reason, and it yielded a lot of national championships. I worry that DeBoer might be too lax. The second thing I'll say is this. When I look back on 2024, in his defense, I think when he came in, I think that Jalen Milroe had the team, and I think that Milroe told DeBoer that unless Milroe starts, half the team's going to leave. And so it kind of handicapped DeBoer in that he really couldn't make any quarterback change or have a meaningful quarterback competition if he wanted to. So that affected what he could do with his offensive playbook, and ultimately we saw the results of that. Last thing I'll say is this. When I look ahead to 2025, he doesn't have to deal with Milroe and the rest of them and all of those politics, but he does have to deal with a quarterback competition. And my feeling is that Ty Simpson, although I've heard the coaches say he was more talented than Milroe, they often said he didn't have the intangibles or the leadership qualities that Milroe had. And when I saw him play, I got that same kind of vibe. Now, I don't know if Keelan Russell coming in as a true freshman is going to be able to adjust to the SEC quickly enough. But I think we not only have a quarterback competition, but potentially a quarterback problem. So what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I feel like if it could be like the Florida situation again where, Ty Simpson's like Graham Mertz, Keelan Russell could be like Lagway, where if Keelan Russell works out, then and they have a good season, like then DeBoer, he's good to go. Like his future is secure. Everybody's satisfied if they go like 11-1. But if he doesn't pan out immediately, and then Ty Simpson has to be the guy, and they struggle, then there's gonna be a lot of problems, because you don't want to lose the fan base. That is the biggest problem among even non-blue blood programs in football or basketball. We're seeing quicker than ever. Look at Wake Forest basketball, Jackson. Wake Forest basketball is done with Steve Forbes. They're done. They're done. What's Wake Forest done since Chris Paul and Tim Duncan? Nothing. They're irrelevant, right? They should be happy they're even in the bubble conversation, right? But they're done. They don't care that they beat Duke last year. They don't care that they had some success. The fact that they keep choking before the tournament, they want a new coach. Who are they going to get? I don't know, but you're seeing it more programs than ever. This is going on. And if Alabama has a rough year of 7-5 next year, DeBoer might have just already lost the fan base. That's what cannot happen. And the thing is, I will say, when it comes to Alabama, is that since the team is not as good anymore, like it was under Nick Saban, you could afford. People don't realize. A lot of people do realize, but in hindsight, they don't realize actually how bad it was. But Nick Saban had a lot of quarterbacks who weren't good. They were not good. Most of them were not good, but they won anyway. Ty Simpson, if he was under Nick Saban's best teams, could probably win 11 games easy.
Yeah,
he has the team around him, but Alabama doesn't have that anymore. So you have to make up for that lack of other positional power. You have to compensate for a better quarterback, which Alabama doesn't have right now, unless Keelan Russell emerges. And that's the problem. You don't have as good of a team to have a mid quarterback be your guy. You can't have that.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think last year, for politics reasons, there wasn't really a QB competition. But the year before that, there was, and Ty Simpson couldn't beat out Milroe. And when I saw Ty Simpson this year, yeah, maybe he has the tools, but does he have the intangibles? I'm not so sure. So here's what I'm predicting. I think that this year, Alabama's going to go 9-3 and barely miss the playoffs. Mm-hmm. And my question for you guys is, if they do, should DeBoer remain as coach at Alabama? My answer would be probably yes.
If they go 9-3, specifically if Keelan Russell starts and he shows a lot of promise but has mistakes because of his youth, then I think then DeBoer is going to be fine, because people will be like, well, next year's going to be better because he's going to be a year older, more experienced. We can maybe build around him more, whatever. And then they would do a lot better. That would be the mindset. But if they go 9-3 with Ty Simpson, I think that it's a little bit worse for DeBoer. I know people be like, well, Keelan Russell next year. But if Keelan Russell doesn't play at all, then that's going to make people be like, well, if he couldn't beat out Ty Simpson, then he must not be ready or good or whatever. So either scenario, 9-3, he's not being fired. He's gonna get another year. If he does worse than that, specifically 7-5 or worse, then it's bad. 8-4 is not good.
If there's like a major scandal where behind
obviously,
then there's talk of them getting fired.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking that I'd probably give him 4 years unless something drastic happens. But last thing I'll say, guys, is this, and I hate to say this, watch out for Auburn this year. I think Auburn's going to be
especially when we go to Jordan-Hare this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, even when Auburn's been bad, it's been tough for Bama the last few times in that place.
Yeah.
Note to self when doing a parlay, bet on Auburn to beat the spread, but bet on the money line on Bama.
Sounds good to me. Guys, great analysis. Thanks for having me on, and great show as always. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it, Adam.
We appreciate you, Adam.
Check out Rutgers at the Voice of College Football. Definitely trying to build up the community all across the Voice of College Football, and hardly any better than Adam over at the Rutgers channel. I know people like Rutgers. Who cares about Rutgers? It doesn't matter. Check them out.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it, guys. Have a great night.
You too, man. And our next caller, he is a fan favorite of the Voice of College Football. He is the one and only, the real MVP. How you doing tonight, good buddy?
I'm doing good. How about you two, gentlemen?
Oh, we're doing all right, man. We're doing all right.
So I wanted to ask you about a massive structural change that is going to potentially impact every program.
Mhm.
And I wouldn't say it's a positive change, but that's just my opinion. It's this report by Ross Dellinger that came out just a few hours ago that
wow.
says Redbird is the potential leader. Redbird Capital is the potential leader in infusing cash into the Big 12 going forward. I know this is something that's been discussed for a while about private equity and stuff like that. Well, what are your thoughts about this?
I'm gonna let Jackson go first on that one.
Oh man, sounds like I need to take a look at this because it's like I'll let myself get busy today, but good grief, good grief. I'm really hoping that a lot of teams aren't getting screwed over, but something tells me teams are getting screwed over in this anyhow.
Yeah,
I think the
I don't
biggest
know.
problem. Go ahead,
Sorry.
Drew. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I don't know what benefit a capital investment company would get from partnering with the Big 12 if they're not doing an equity share. Because in an equity share, now I could be wrong about this, so clarify if I'm wrong. I'm sure somebody in chat will. An equity share, you own a partial stake in what you're investing in because you're investing in them. Whereas if it's just a capital share, you're just infusing cash into them. Usually it's for like startup companies because you believe in their idea or product. So but I don't understand the upside that Redbird would get from investing in the Big 12 since they're already massive. I mean, the Big 12, we like to make fun of them because, they're the weakest link in the chain, and they are. They're still going to be, I believe, going forward. But I just don't understand the upside for these investment capital firms.
I
Yeah, it's
think
kind
like
of like. Go ahead, Jackson.
I think like the investment capitals, like getting involved in college football, like corporate America getting way too involved in college football has got me a little nervous because it's showing me like these people do not care about college football, and it's showing us that it's a big club and we ain't in it. You and I are not in the
Oh
Big
yeah,
12.
it's kind of like when Fox was basically funding the spring football league, the USFL or whatever. Like they were funding it because like a startup. I get what you're saying with that drill for sure, but yeah, the problem with the Big 12 is that, like you said, they're the weak link. I mean, no matter what they do, it don't matter how much funding, if this happens or whatever that they get or sponsors, whatever, because you're starting to see sponsors all over these courts and fields now, which again, I think sucks. I don't like it. I think it makes it more and more like the NFL and the NBA, which I can't stand, but especially the NBA. But the Big 12 is always going to be the weakest. It doesn't matter how much money you put into it. It's not going to be the Big Ten and the SEC. They don't have the brands. You can't make them brands overnight. Look at Miami. They tried to make Miami basketball a brand. And guess what happened to Miami basketball once Life Wallet guy gave up? They suck. They're absolutely horrid. So, yeah, it doesn't work. You could put money and just throw it at junk and thinking it's going to stick, and it doesn't. I mean, how many failed operations that have gone on in American history where people just throw millions and billions of dollars into junk and it fails? That money doesn't solve everything. You have to actually have something worth the money that you're putting into it. You know what I'm saying? Like if you have a company that's worth billions of dollars and you put money into it, then it's probably going to make you more money. But if you put money into something that either is worth nothing or worth little, then it's not going to suddenly make it worth a lot. So the Big 12 can get all this money, but it's not going to suddenly make it the same as the Big 10 and the SEC. It just isn't. Go ahead, Drew.
I was going to say, I think we can take that clip and post it on crypto Twitter, and I think it would apply there directly.
Note to self, Jackson.
There you go.
But I'm very worried because like this idea concerns me for like we're just professionalizing the sport even further. And what I'm worried about is we're going to have like title sponsors for conferences, title sponsors for games. We're going to have like the All-State Big Ten. presented by Toyota, the Peach Bowl matchup of Texas Tech versus Texas A&M, just something that's like March Madness has become, where just sponsors on sponsors on sponsors, how even the ladder that the coach climbs during the Final Four is sponsored by somebody. I mean, it's just a
it's
corporate
just getting
cesspool.
ridiculous. I mean, I honestly, when I go back and watch clips of college sports even 10 years ago, and it just seems so unaltered. Like, I know there was BS going on back then. We all know that there was funny business going on back then, but among programs and coaches doing things they shouldn't do, and there was scheming and whatnot, and tons of stuff that got caught, like SMU in the 80s. We know there was a lot of junk and a lot of dirty stuff, but like, looking back at it even 10 years ago, it just seems so unaltered. It seemed like this is it's the middle ground between high school and the NFL, or high school and the NBA. It's in the middle. It's young kids, young adults, whatever you want to call them. Kids if you're like 80, young adults if you're like us, whatever you want to call them. Just 18 to 22-year-olds just going to school, getting a scholarship, playing the sport they love, and hoping they have a shot to go pro. And that's it. And we watched. That's it. And there's no sponsors. There's some money under the table, but there wasn't a lot going on. And it just seemed, it was just nice. And now it's just crap, because you've got all this money and the sponsors and the NIL and the portal and gimme, me, blah, 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 whatever. And it sucks, because it just feels like, hey, well, if I want all this, I could just watch the NFL or the NBA.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I understand that you're like, well, it's selfish as the viewer, me, Jackson, whatever, to say that when these guys, they're doing the hard work, they deserve to get compensated. I'm not saying that they don't, but the way that it has been done is absolutely horrible. You've completely changed college sports forever, and I don't give a crap when anybody says it's never going to go back to the way it was before. You just can't. You can't do that. Once you kick the can down the road far enough, you can't bring it back. You can't. You can maybe reverse a bit of it, but you can't bring it back to the way it was before. Oh. It's not possible. So we're just stuck with this. We're stuck with college sports being the way that it is. I can't stand it. I'm not a Pac-12 defender. That's Bill Walton was there for you if you wanted that.
Yeah.
Rest in peace. But I missed the Pac-12, not because I liked it, but because it existed, and it didn't have any reason to go away, and it did because of money and because of all these horrible changes. I mean, I'm getting so sick and tired of college basketball March Madness expansion talk. It's making me say every single bracketology post on Twitter that I see, there are people in the replies saying, "Oh, this shows you why we don't need to expand it doesn't matter if the bubble's weak or not. This could be the strongest year of the bubble ever, and we still don't need to expand the thing. I don't care about the argument that, well, the bubble's trash this year, we don't need to let Indiana and North Carolina in. This is why we don't need to expand. No, we don't need to expand it because it doesn't need to be expanded. No. It doesn't need any reason to be expanded. It makes no sense to expand the thing. You don't have to provide argument. It just doesn't. It does not. That people get so caught up in the reasons and the why and the hows, when sometimes it's just best to leave something as it is. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And I know people be like, well, they just expanded it from 64 to 68 a few years ago. Yeah, that's true, but I didn't even like that. So, again, I don't know. Like I said, I tend to be more on the side of not, having ridiculous changes that a lot of people just seem to be in favor of until once they're done, and then they decide, oh, wait, I actually don't like this. Well, again, too bad, so sad.
I know, right?
Change. You advocated for it. Now you got it. You can't get rid of it.
It's like USC. This isn't anything against towards USC or anything, but it's like we want to leave the Pac-12 for the Big Ten. Now they're complaining about having to travel to Columbus one week, go home the next week. Oh my God, we have to go to South Bend.
Too bad, so sad. I don't care.
We gotta go to Piscataway. Oh my
I
God,
don't
we've
care.
been going through a lot. Yeah,
They
no.
advocated for this. Deal with it. That's on you. And I'm not. I mean, people are like, "Oh my gosh, Jeffrey's against all change." No, I'm not against all change. Change can be good, but name me one change that has happened to college sports in the last couple years that has been good. You got anything to reel?
I'm still holding. I was going to argue maybe Texas and Oklahoma joining the SEC because it's regional. That's the only argument I can somewhat make an argument. But no.
The only reason that I'm against it is because then that spawned USC and all that going to the Big Ten.
Right.
I mean, on
at
the
least
bright
regionally,
side,
we're all together in the South. At least we make sense. The Big Ten don't make sense.
Like on the bright side, Texas and Texas A&M are back to playing one another as conference foes, and Texas and Arkansas.
But then you lose Oklahoma State.
I know, right?
And then old moves like you lost the West Virginias and Pitts, and you lost, all games like that. We've lost more rivalries than we've gained back with the realignment.
And a rivalry we lost in the 90s was Penn State-Pittsburgh, with Penn State going to the Big Ten.
I mean, people will be like, oh, well, they've kept Oregon State, and Washington State. Nothing. It's completely changed, my friend. Because, already you got Oregon and Washington being significantly better programs, more funded, all that than those other two. But now you add the fact that Oregon and Washington are in the Big Ten making $100 million a year, whereas Oregon State and Washington State are basically just the orphan child on the hillside left to die by the Romans or something.
Yeah.
They're just sitting there. They're just out there just like barely holding on to life. You know what I'm saying? And like, you can't eat like, oh, they're still playing the game. Okay. And then after probably 4 or 5 years, they're not going to want to play the game anymore, because what's the point? What's the difference in Oregon playing Oregon State when they could play Idaho? There's not really a difference, especially when, as we've talked about 8 billion times before with college football anyway. It doesn't make any sense to even play tough non-conference games.
Yeah, I saw
where maybe college basketball, but Oregon State, Washington State don't really help you in that department either.
No. Like Nebraska, I remember Matt Rule was on the Triple Option podcast with Rob Stone, Urban Meyer, and Mark Ingram, where Urban was asking about the prospect of having a tough game on your non-conference schedule. And Matt Rule's like, why? Why would you have that? Which I'm like, I don't like Nebraska, Tennessee being taken from us, but I'm like, do not take away Nebraska, Oklahoma. But I feel like that's the road we could be heading down. But it's like, oh well.
What we're happening is we're in a time, in my opinion, where the non-conference games need to be valued the most. They're being valued the least. Which is, at least in college basketball, non-conference games matter. Like for seeding purposes and all that stuff. What do they go back to? Well, in November and December, Team A beat Team B. Therefore, Team A is going to be ahead of Team B.
Which is a joke, honestly, because in college basketball, you have so much more data to go off of than football.
I know, but at least it matters. At least they get it right.
I agree with you that it matters, but I in a way, and I don't, because again, I'm not an advocate for change in a lot of these moves that have been made. But some change can still be solid if it has good merit. I think, and someone's proposed this, and I wouldn't be completely against this. Yeah, it breaks the flow of non-conference and then conference. Duke, Illinois. That game was just played. If that game is played in week, the third game of the season in college basketball, there is no way in the world that game is 110-67. No way. I guarantee it. I guarantee you that is a 5-point game, maybe 10-point game at max, Duke win. But that game's competitive. And see, that is why having all of the marquee non-conference games at the beginning of the season is kind of stupid, really, because of the fact, how many teams do we see fade? They start out the season. Ohio State beat Kentucky. They beat Kentucky. That's why they belong in the field. Could they beat Kentucky today? No.
No.
They suck. Okay?
Right, but
They
but because of how I know you mentioned the trash point about how weak the bubble is, but I'm going to use it here because of how weak the bubble is. At least they beat somebody decent.
My point, though, is that if Ohio State played Kentucky right now,
oh yeah, they would get killed.
They lose. So why not play some non-conference games at this point in the season?
Oh, I agree with you. But
I like that plan. I actually do, because then that would negate this early season run that these teams go on where people think they're so great and then they just crap the bed in conference play. I mean, I understand the SEC is the unique situation because of the fact that it's such a stacked league this year. Every team's basically good. So, yeah, you got the Oklahomas that have faded, right, and in Georgia. But clearly, and I will defend and toot the SEC's horn here, that those teams are still pretty actually good. Because Georgia just beat Florida, and Oklahoma almost beat Kentucky. And won a big game recently. I can't off the top of my head remember right now. But my point, though, is that even though those teams have faded, somebody's got to lose the games. So in their defense, they're still pretty actually darn good basketball teams that just are losing because everybody in the SEC is great. So them winning those games now does validate what they did in the beginning of the year where they beat those teams. But then when you got examples like, again, Ohio State beating Kentucky, and like, oh my gosh, Ohio State is a good team. No, they're not. Or Wake Forest.
They're mid.
Wake Forest beat Michigan. They beat Michigan. What has Wake Forest done? Literally, that's why I said the Steve Forbes example.
They lost to NC State and Virginia and FSU.
They lost to three horrible teams. At least North Carolina beat them. All three of those teams, actually. And Wake couldn't do that. So you're telling me that, Wake, we still have them in the next 4 out because they beat Michigan. No, they suck. Get rid of them. They don't belong. Nowhere near the field. They're trash, right?
Well, they're completely out. I've had them. They're completely out. After that NC State game, I'm like, they're done. They're completely out. But I want to kind of go back because this is a pretty big weave we've established. I want to kind of close the weave. I don't even buy into this narrative that if you have more money than somebody else, that automatically means your team or whatever is going to be better, or your conference is going to be better. I mean, this is just a narrative that I've heard as a NPC talking point that I've seen nobody back up with substantial evidence. I mean, look at SMU, the Mustangs this year. I mean, they made as much money playing college football as me, Jackson, and Jeffrey did combined. And yet they went on to be the best team in the ACC and almost beat Clemson for the ACC title. So I just don't believe in this narrative that you have more money, therefore you're better. I'm sorry. I don't believe Vanderbilt can go out tomorrow and beat Clemson because Vanderbilt makes more money than Clemson.
No.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fair point. It is a fair point. I think the reason why the argument is said, though, is because on average, especially among the elite, the teams that got the money do win. I mean, Ohio State, we know what they did. We know exactly what they just did this past offseason in football. We know exactly what they did. They poached from the SEC to get good players to win a title. And they did. Mm-hmm. So Ohio State's title, thank the SEC, because you took Downs, you took Judkins, you took the center that Alabama didn't want after he hiked the ball over the head like 5 times.
Yeah.
You're welcome. That obviously, I know Ohio State fans are like, you know what? 85% of our team wasn't. But you know what? 85% of the players come from the South too. So it's
85% wasn't good enough for them.
The point is that, you know, Ohio State has money and they spent it. Just like Georgia does and Alabama does and these other programs do. Doesn't mean they're always going to win, though. A&M has spent money forever and they suck.
Oh, yeah.
Right. My point is, though, it's not a correlation that, oh my gosh, we're getting more money, therefore we're going to do better on the football field. I think you have to have good culture, good chemistry, good facilities, good coaches, competent coaches that know what they're doing, and a tradition and a brand that people want to gravitate to. And unfortunately for the Big 12, I don't care how much money they have. I just don't see them being competitive with the SEC or Big 10 going forward. Now, could they beat the middle of the Big 10 generally? Sure, because the middle of the Big 10, they don't have that much depth. But is their goal to be as good as Nebraska and Minnesota? I don't think so. But that's basically where
Troy just said, "Oh, please, Carl Hart, the Buckets, the last transfer player." It's not about the amount; it was the quality.
Yeah, they got Caleb Downs, who was the best defender in the entire SEC.
That's the difference too. You could have a football team that gets 25 transfers, and they all suck. Okay.
And by the way, can we just
Ohio State transfers were the best, but my point though is that they spent $20 million on 6 players. So yes, money did buy them a title. Yes, it did. I mean, that's
Jeffrey,
can so did Georgia and Bama. We know they all do. I'm just saying that SMU, the teams that you always say like don't belong, it's because they don't have the money.
So well, I don't think even if they had the money, they would overnight become instantly as good as the top teams in the SEC.
Probably not. I mean, Indiana's spending more money than ever before, and it's going to take time. Yeah. We'll see if they ever have a shot. I doubt it, because Notre Dame went all the way to the national title game, and we still saw technically how far they were.
Right. And my point also with this comment is I don't think Jeffrey was saying it as an excuse, as a reason. Ohio State did what they were supposed to do in this era of college football to win it all. They went and got the best players in the transfer portal.
That's what I'm saying. But see, what I'm saying, I know what your argument is, Darrell. What my argument is that if you spend your money on the right players and on the right coaches and on the right, staff, whatever, you're going to win. And Ohio State, even though Ron Day, I can't definitively say if he's a good coach or not. I have no clue. I don't know. I mean, people wanted him fired. Now I'm saying he's great. I think that their team is just darn good, and they had good, assistant coaches.
Let me put it this way.
I think that's more the deal. But yes, money did matter in them winning a title because they
let me put it this way,
guy.
Because I think there's some confusion. I don't think money is an essential requirement to winning a national championship. It's not a necessary requirement, but it's a nice bonus to have on top to put you over the hump. So there are teams like Michigan in 2023 where they took all their guys back. I don't think they won it because they went into the transfer portal, just decided, hey, we're going to throw money left, right, and center. What they had was a good enough culture and coaching staff, and decided, hey, we're all coming back because we all value winning the college football national championship. So I think there's just teams like that going forward. I think Penn State's a good example of what they're doing in 2025 is like that. I don't hear reports of them throwing around $5, $6, $7, $8 million, throwing around bags for people to stay. What I'm hearing is, well, we want to win the national championship and leave a legacy of Penn State. And I think that's going to be their tradition going forward. Now, I'm sure all these players are getting NIL deals because you have to have some amount of money. I'm not saying if you have $2 going to your players, you're going to win, because that's crazy. You obviously have to have some NIL to win it. But having more NIL is not going to determine you're better than somebody else off rip.
So I was going to say the thing to really watch for is like who's going to get the TV contracts next. And you're going to see it at, remember in the 90s where it's like, for those that are around in the 90s, do you remember when Fox got the NFL from CBS? Because like back then they were known as the Al Bundy Simpsons Network. But in order to be taken seriously, they need to have sports programming, which was take the NFL from CBS or take the AFC from NBC. And you're going to see something like that with the NFL again, because you're hearing rumors and reports of where Netflix could be taking the NFL from CBS or Fox. And eventually, you're going to see Netflix or Hulu or Amazon Prime take like the small conferences that ESPN does not care about. Do we think like ESPN cares about the Big 12? No.
I don't like it. I still want to watch those games. I don't like it.
I know.
Well,
right?
I've already
shelling out way too much money for that
today for the Big 12 going on Netflix potentially. The next contract I believe is up is going to be a race between the Mountain West and the Pac-12, which you want to talk about. Nobody cares about. There's two conferences nobody really cares about because they're both in the wilderness right now. in terms of relevance. But I'm just worried about the health and direction of the sport going to. And I really don't want to be like, I'm pretty cynical about the direction. I'll be even more cynical if there's a direct correlation between who makes the most money and who wins the national championship.
The thing is that I want to make one more point about the money thing. I think, in my opinion, I don't think that you have to have a whole lot of money to have a good team. That is where I agree with you 1,000%. SMU, Indiana, college basketball teams that make the Final Four. I don't. I really don't. I think that you can have a team that is full of dudes making less than $1 million among them, and they can win you 10 games. But to win a national championship, if you don't at least have a roster that's making among the top 15 or so in money in college sports, you're not going to win it all, especially in football. You're not. You're just not. All you have to do is look at the last 15 national championship winners in college sports, in college football. And they all make tons of money. Tons. And now that NIL is legal and we know the reports, they're all there. LSU,
right. Well,
Alabama, Michigan, Ohio State, they're all there. Kentucky's not, because Kentucky's not there. They're not in football. I agree with you. I understand what you're saying. If you want to win a national championship in college football, you have to have an expensive roster. You have to have good coaches. You have to have the culture and all that stuff, which I literally think Ohio State won the title because they lost to Michigan. I mean, that's just definitive.
Yeah, I do too.
They lost to Michigan. They were boo-hooing and crying and whining and all that, and they were like, you know what, we're going to beat the crap out of everybody, and they did. Because if they don't lose that game, I don't think they win it all. That's just my opinion. Again, we'll never be able to prove it. But I'm just saying, though, that Ohio State spent a lot of money, just like the other top programs did. But Ohio State spent the most on the fewest amount of players. They wanted to make sure that they got those guys. And I know, like Troy said earlier about, Bama couldn't do better to keep their players. Coaching change. Ohio State probably paid more. I mean, you think Caleb Downs goes to Ohio State to make less? I mean, honestly, do you think that? Do you think Caleb Downs went to Ohio State to make less? No. He probably got paid more. I know he got paid more. Because, again, nobody's doing that. They're just not. Nobody. I mean, the only way that a person in real actual life takes a pay cut for a job is usually to go from a harder job to an easier job. That's about the only reason why a person's going to do that. But in college football terms, why would you do that? Why would it be like, okay, I'm Jeffrey and I'm making $500,000 at Minnesota, but I'm going to go to Illinois and make $300,000. Now you can make an argument playing time, but if I'm making $500,000 in Minnesota, it probably means that I'm playing. You know, again, I'm just saying, like, I understand what you're saying. Because me and you, DeReal, usually agree. And I do agree with what you're saying, but I don't fully agree either. Because if you don't have the top tier money, you cannot win a title. You can maybe win 11 games and make the 12-team playoff, but you can't win it all. It's not. Well,
possible. I don't know if this is it reminds me of a chicken and the egg situation. I don't know which came first, the amount of money that was given to the players, or because of the name, history, culture, and brand of these institutions that led to them being successful, which led to the money being given.
Yes, now. I mean, I agree with that. I mean, yes. I mean, like you look at Notre Dame and how like they had Newt Rockne and then they had other good coaches and then Lou Holtz, and it's like, you know, they built and established, you know, like history and legacy in what they are today. It's like if Notre Dame didn't have that, you know, they'd probably be trash. It wouldn't even be any good. So it's like every program had somebody that built it up. Yeah, I agree. And you have that established fan base, and that's how money's created now in this day and age. I agree.
Right. My point, though, is with this is if Texas Tech, since they're spending a bunch of money, you had an offer for $1 million for Texas Tech or $1 million for Alabama. Same position, same everything. You're going to be the starter for both teams. Which one you're going to? I believe Right, and that's my point. I don't think money is the only factor. Even if we said it's worth 1.2, I don't know what the cutoff is, but I do think these smaller schools are going to have to weigh more money because these players are like, well, I'm not only making this NIL money for right now. I'm going to become a pro player. I'm going to make tons of money in the NFL at the high end level. So
but I think the biggest problem is though, Darrell, when looking at that argument, because again, I agree with you, but here's the problem. The problem is that Texas Tech can shill out $1 million for a player. You know, if they want a guy, and like you said, Tech or Bama, probably going to pick Bama because they win. But here's the other thing. Does Texas Tech have enough money to pay their entire roster what Bama pays their entire roster?
I doubt it.
No. That is why all I heard when I watched Indiana play Ohio State and Notre Dame, Indiana's top-end talent's pretty good. Yeah, top-end talent is a bunch of 3 stars. Okay. Top-end talent is pretty good. Mikael Kamara, Curtis Rourke, Elijah Surratt, blah, blah, blah. It's pretty good. The depth. They don't got it.
Right.
They just don't. They don't. Just because Indiana's making more money now because of the Big Ten media rights deal, which probably helped contribute to Michigan and Ohio State winning the last 2 national titles. Just saying. But think about it. Indiana's got more money now. They're actually paying dudes. That's why they're getting decent players. But they don't have the bench. They don't have the depth. They can't hang with Notre Dame, who's got a lot more depth, or Ohio State. That's the difference. Texas Tech can shill out $1 million for a player. They can't shill out money for an entire team. That's why Ryan Day complained 2 years ago and said, I need more money to fund a roster.
Right.
I'm
And because
lose
he's
players.
at Ohio State,
He literally said that.
Right. He's also at Ohio State, which means there should be no reason he should have unlimited resources because he's at one of the 3 best institutions for college football in the entire world at worst. So, I mean, but my point is also, and I agree with everything you said, I'm just saying because I believe that if you're trying to recruit the 4 and 5 stars to win it all, I think the tiebreaker for these kids is going to be what's going to help me in the long-term future.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the cutoff is in money. And it's probably different for every single person, to be honest with you. And I don't even know what the average would be. So I believe these smaller schools like TCU, Texas Tech, Arizona State and stuff are going to have to pay more money than Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia to win them over. Because if you go there, there's a chance your team isn't any good. And you're just like an empty calories type guy, and your draft stock is going to fall. And you're not going to get as much money on draft night and in your contract, your rookie contract. And I think that calculus is being made by these recruits because these recruits have agents. Their parents are telling them about this if they have them and giving them the proper wisdom. That's all I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So I think that stuff also plays a pretty big factor in why these historic brands are winning the national championship, because I always heard the NIL when it's brought, it's going to bring parity to college football. There's going to be tons of parity. Well, Ohio State's won a title. They're big brand. Michigan won it. They're a pretty big brand. Georgia's won too. They're pretty big brands. You know, there hasn't been like an Indiana, an SMU, a Kentucky, or a Big 12, an Arizona State or Boise State who's won it. So I don't just buy that argument.
Yeah, and I do agree too that, again, just spending a lot of money doesn't guarantee you to win. I absolutely agree with that, because we've seen tons of teams lose that spend a lot of money. Like I said, A&M in the past, tons of years. Florida State, Jordan Travis, transfer, fantastic. Keon Coleman, Jared Verse, on and on. Great team, fantastic. Then this year, DJU. And that whole roster was just garbage. They spent money, but it was garbage. You know what I'm saying? Like TCU got JoJo Earl from Alabama. No one remembers he exists. He's playing for like Cal Poly now or whatever, Sac State, something like that. But it's like JoJo Earl. He was a former 5-star recruit, and we're getting him. Remember that running back? Don't remember his name right now, Jackson. Remember that running back for Bama that was a 5-star? He was the number 1 recruit, but he had all those injuries and that car crash, all that kind of stuff. He goes to TCU. So TCU's getting some high-quality players. They're not doing nothing. No. They spent money because I think those guys, being from Bama, they're going to be like, well, I'm going to go to the school that's at least going to pay me pretty well. They didn't do nothing. They didn't do anything. So that's
Right.
the
How
problem.
much-
Like, it's how you spend it. That's why I'm saying that Ohio State spent a lot of money, but they spent it on the right individuals. That's
Yeah.
what I'm
Right.
saying.
How much
So-
of this also do you think is Alabama's seen these players? They realize, oh, we thought he was a 5-star, but he's more like a 3 or a 2-star. So we don't really mind if he gets let out the door. And we're going to promote him like he's a 5-star, but, because we're not only helping us by getting rid of him, we're adding a roster spot, but we're hurting this other school because they're using a significant amount of NIL and that they're not going to use for somebody else who's actually pretty good. I think that's happening a lot as well.
I agree 100%. And I like this comment too from Trojan Fight. Appreciate you for being here. Does winning matter or just money? Example, how is Auburn able to lose 7 games and still on to a top 5 class? Exactly.
Well, I'll answer this with a answer he doesn't like. They're in the SEC. They're one of the premier programs
Because
in all of the
Auburn
country.
stinks. And
Yeah,
Hugh
but they're
Freeze,
one of the premier programs in all the country. They're not like Texas Tech. They're not
No,
like Arizona
no.
State, BYU. They're better than those programs. Right now,
Yeah.
I don't care if they lost 7 games. They could go 0-12. Florida State could have gone 0-12, and they still would be better than every single Big 12 program.
That's
going
why
forward.
when people trash Indiana basketball and say they're no good and they're nothing and that, oh, Boise State's a better program than them, Indiana is a historical blue blood. And it is
Right.
never going to go away. And the fans are always going to be there. And the players you're still going to get players. Indiana had one of the best transfer portal classes. Now, Woodson absolutely botched it until recently.
Oh, yeah.
But Indiana is always going to be relevant, man. If they get a coach that's actually good, then Indiana is going to be great.
Yeah.
But the thing is yeah, I mean, when you're a program that's historically great, you're going to get players. But in the case of Auburn, though, they because of that fan support, because of the being in the SEC and the history, man, I mean,
Right. Here's another
you
example.
should not get a top 5 class when you're that bad.
Yeah.
That is clearly a lot of that is money. It clearly is.
Well, here's another example. USC is currently ranked 14th in recruiting for the 2025 season. They're ahead of Penn State. They're ahead of Ole Miss, Oklahoma. Why are they that? Because their location is an amazing place, Southern California. They're probably NIL plays somewhat of a factor in there, and their program is one of the best historical programs of all time. I'm sure their facilities are much better than most programs out there in the country. So,
See, the thing that people don't understand, though, is that when it comes to facilities, people are like, well, our facilities are better. You know what it takes to build facilities? Money.
It takes money. But it also takes care and will.
Yeah, it takes care, but that's the point, though. You win
Right.
games, you get fans, you expand that stadium, you get more fans, you expand that stadium again, you get more fans. More fans means more dollar bills. More fans means more money going into the program, and then you could build all these facilities for the football team and for the, that's the point. That's the thing. It's like, at the end of the day, all these people that would say that money has nothing to do with it, it does, because literally money built your facilities. Money built your stadium. Money built all this stuff. Your program wouldn't even be nowhere. If you had $0, if Alabama had $0, they wouldn't have a Bryant Denny. They wouldn't have none of the facilities. They wouldn't have all their championship banners. You had to have money just to even build the field. So
obviously,
it's a stupid argument. It's just at programs like Northwestern, they do not prioritize football.
Right.
If they did, then they'd be good, but they don't.
Right.
Duke is literally Northwestern. They're the same type program, but they prioritize basketball.
Yeah.
So that's why they're good. I mean, do you think
Right.
Cooper Flagg would go to Duke if they weren't paying him pretty well? I agree with you that the history of Duke, the winning, but money. Right now, he's one of the highest paid people in college basketball. He would not go to Duke if they were paying him $10,000. I'm just saying.
No.
It all relates, but still.
Right.
Well,
what I'm saying is people who just say, well, our basketball team or football team isn't good because of NIL. I think they're just using that as an excuse for not addressing the actual issues. I don't believe NIL is like a 75-80% metric where you must have this amount of NIL or you're just completely irrelevant. I think it's necessary to some extent. Now, I don't know what the extent is, but I think people are way over dramatically selling how much you need. It's like, you've got to have at least this amount of money to pay this recruit, and everything's about money going forward. I'm like, really? You look at the recruiting rankings from this year and go 20 years ago. I imagine they're pretty similar. If it was all about money, don't you think these little small schools with a billionaire or a billionaire donor would just say, hey, here's $100 million. Guess what? Now go spend it crazy. They would instantly be number one if NIL was the only thing that mattered.
The only problem is, though, is that, again, it goes back to that point, though, that nobody cares.
Right. That's my point.
But see,
I think
this is where winning matters. Like, people talk about Indiana basketball, and they say Bob Knight. Bob Knight, right. Bob Knight, Bob Knight. Indiana won 2 national titles before that.
Yeah.
Branch McCracken, who the court's named after, should be named after Bob Knight, I feel, but we know why it's not. But my point, though, is that Branch McCracken won 2 titles prior to Bob Knight. So it already built that fan interest, because guess what? Assembly Hall, the vaunted stadium that Indiana has that can have music people there. They used to in the 80s and 90s. They have a lot of musical, people in there because of the way it's built with all the ergonomics of it, and it really, really resounds the sound everywhere. It's a unique building. It was built in 1971. Do you know what year Bob Knight became the head coach of Indiana? 1971. Bob Knight had he had nothing to do with the building of Assembly Hall.
No.
It was already being built prior to him being hired. Bob Knight furthered Indiana's excellence, but Indiana was already there. That's the thing that people don't understand. You had to build it from the way past. All these historic sports from the way past when money didn't matter. But now it does, because you have that history and the fans already support you. And you look at Stanford. Stanford football 10 years ago was one of the best football programs in the sport. And now they suck. Do they have any fans at their games?
Not really, no.
They're dead. So they're not making any money. Nobody goes. So how can you make money when Ohio State's selling out 100,000 people every game, Alabama's selling out 100,000 people, Michigan, all these teams selling out 100,000 every home game, and they can charge as much as they want for especially these big games, and Stanford can't even get 30% capacity, and they're selling them for nothing because they're just trying to get people to show up. So that's the problem. Nobody gives a crap at Stanford. They don't care. If they cared, then money would generate itself.
Right.
It would create itself. But they don't care, so there's no money being pumped into Stanford, and they're just going to continue to suck no matter who they hire.
Gentlemen, we saw a little update from Dave E. where he's talking about Alabama women's basketball getting a win against LSU, where they won 88-85 in overtime. And I had to look this up, and our next opponent is Oklahoma. And I gotta be honest,
a good game.
I have not watched a single women's college basketball game, although Alabama.
Those are evenly matched teams. That's a 50-50 game.
But you've probably watched a little bit more of it than I have, Darrell. Is South Carolina still like the big dog?
Them and Texas are the 2 big dogs this year. They're 1-1 against each other. There's not really a clear number 1 in the women's basketball. For me, the pecking order is 1 and 1A, Texas and South Carolina. LSU's 3rd, Kentucky's 4th, and then Tennessee, Oklahoma, Bama. I have some reason like a hodgepodge of teams.
Okay. Yeah, because I remember you called in on from the Hawkeye the Storm live post game show a year ago, and you talked about one of the Iowa games. This was one of the regular season games, I believe, and I'm like, man, Darrell knows his stuff about everything, man.
Well, I like women's basketball because for these economic times, it's much cheaper. Like, you can go to a women's basketball game depending on, even if they're a good team and they're ranked for $5. So, I mean,
and then people complain that women's athletes don't make nowhere near what men do. And it's like, well, the tickets are cheap. The funding.
Well, yeah, that's absolutely right.
If it gets to the point where women's basketball is so coveted to the level of men's basketball, then they will make what men make. It's not a sexist thing. It's not sexism. It's just facts. If you can go to a game for $5, then your top women's athlete's not going to make what the men's athlete does, because the men's ticket. Zion Williamson, to go to see Duke that year with Zion Williamson for the Carolina game where he blew out his shoe and didn't even play more than 5 minutes, was over $2,000 a ticket. So yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I'm not saying anything about that.
Oh, I know. I just wanted to reference that because I get really irritated with people saying that on social media.
I'm not stupid, Jeffrey. You don't have to.
That's the thing. You're smart. I don't have to.
I understand basic economics.
People are not smart on the internet sometimes.
Well, those things I would say are directly correlated between people who are on the internet and people who are not smart. I believe that is a 1-to-1 correlation. The more time you spend on the internet, the dumber you are. I do believe there's
a off of it.
But my point though is I know a lot about the women's game because I go there. It's something cheap. You spend 2 or 3 hours doing it. I mean, these women aren't like as horrible as they're made out to be. I believe they know they can shoot threes, they can dribble, they make some nice passes. It's a little sloppy at times with turnovers and stuff, and they don't have the athleticism of the men. But in some ways, I like it more than the men's games because it's a more pure game of what college basketball and basketball is supposed to be in general, because it's not who's the most athletic. It's the coaching matters significantly more because they draw specific plays, and usually you can tell, oh, this is a clear set that they're running, and it works most of the time because it's harder to react. When you have Zion Williams and he doesn't know a play, he can just react because he's a beast. There's not a woman on a planet Earth who can react like Zion Williams.
I feel like women's basketball though, with certain it's a very rare few players that there are, but I have noticed though with certain teams, because I don't watch women's basketball hardly ever, but I do turn on Indiana and North Carolina every now and then if it's on, like very rarely. But I saw Indiana play USC. Juju Watkins was a problem.
Yeah, okay. She's good.
That's my point. Her, like Angel Reese, those type players, they're not like athletic or like crazy athletic, but they have the ability. Whereas Indiana's entire team is what you're talking about. They're slow. They just hit shots. It's fundamentals. Terry Morin, the head coach for Indiana women's basketball, draws up plays. She's a very good coach, and they have to fight hard to win. They have to be smart to win because they don't have an athletic player on the team, really. Right. All. But when they're playing teams like what they played Iowa, Indiana women's basketball beat Caitlin Clark, I think 3 times while she was at Iowa, because Iowa wasn't very athletic either. I know Caitlin Clark, but she could shoot from anywhere. That's more of her game. Whereas these other ones that are cropping up, these particular female players are getting better, these certain ones, and I don't know if it's because more money is being put into women's sport where they're training better. I don't know. I think that has a lot to do with it.
Here's my theory. I do
because I've actually gone back and watched clips of 90s women's basketball, and they're awful, like they're bad. But now Sister is being a little bit more money being put into it. It's putting more of an emphasis for them to try and make the WNBA and work.
But Darrell,
that stuff is a correlation. But I don't know if you agree with that, Darrell.
Well, my point, Darrell, my point, Jeffrey, was I think the reason that women's basketball is experiencing a resurgence is because people are modeling their game after Steph Curry, which is ball handling and shooting threes. Whereas in the previous era, you had to go inside to a big, you ran like this inside triangle type offense, and women just can't recreate being at the height and weight of Shaq or Hakeem Olajuwon.
They can't dunk like that. I mean,
but you know what they can do?
All ones could, but they don't. Men's basketball, like Zion has the earth-shattering plays, the Sports Center top 10 type plays that draw in viewers. I get it.
Right, but you know what the women can do? They can theoretically do is they can shoot from the logo. Women have arms and hands that are big enough to shoot a basketball, so they can shoot from 3. They can never dunk.
Gentlemen, before we get to our next caller, Darrell, what's your take on Kentucky and Auburn?
Kentucky is going to be in for a very rough day. Jerome Broome, I don't know how to say his first name clearly.
I
Broome
always
is an
just call him
absolute beast.
Johnny Broome, but it's Janai.
Janai.
It looks like Johnny, and I'm just like, it's easier to say.
Janai Broome is an absolute beast. He's either the first or second best player in the country, depending on where you think Cooper Flag
Yeah,
is.
he came from like Morehead State, so what a pickup for Bruce Pearl.
Yeah, Auburn is so clearly the best team in the country that it's not even like close, in my opinion. It's Auburn is way first, Duke is second, and then just a massive gap. Similar to last year, it was UConn 1, Purdue 2, and then a massive gap.
I don't think the gaps is massive this year, but I get your point though. I do agree that there is a clear 1 and 2, and then a drop off. But I think last year it was more apparent. I think this year you have that group of teams like Florida, Bama, Tennessee, Houston that are all like really freaking good, but they're behind. But they're really freaking good though.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying Auburn. They're not.
They could beat Auburn and Duke on a really good day, whereas last year no one was beating UConn or Purdue because everyone else just kind of sucked.
Yeah, I mean UConn being up 30 against Illinois in the Elite Eight.
Yeah,
it's just something that you feel like would happen in
this year, in my opinion.
No.
It's not.
Yeah. That's something you think would happen in the 50s or 60s.
Mm-hmm.
But before we get to our next caller, what have you got going on this week, Darrell?
Well, I'll be tweeting a lot on X.com, as you put in my handle. I appreciate that, Jackson. I'll be tweeting about just reactions to all the tournaments. I'm sure I'll probably be filling out some brackets and posting it on Twitter for the conference tournaments. I know they're starting up soon. I'm not doing it for these little conferences that I honestly don't care about, like the A-Sun. I'm sorry, I'm not that much a degenerate where I watch a single A-Sun basketball game. So, I'll probably do it for the more important conferences that matter, like the SEC, the ACC, the Big 12. What
about the Mountain West? You do them, the Mountain West?
I probably will. I've watched some Mountain West. I see New Mexico. I like New Mexico. I saw them
Utah
play
State. Boise
State.
Yep.
How about
and then there's another one that I think there's 3 that's guaranteed in the Mountain West. And Boise State, I know.
Almost
Nevada.
Again. No, New Mexico, Utah State, and what is the other one?
It's Nevada, probably. They're
I don't think so. No, they're not there.
Boise State, maybe?
San Diego State.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Well, I mean, they're going to leave them out.
Yeah, Nevada or Nevada. I usually say Nevada. Nevada's not having as good of a year this year. They beat a couple.
Shout out to our guy, Neil Campbell.
They're not close. Colorado State's like the fringe one that if they go on a run could sneak in somehow. But it's going to be New Mexico, Utah State, and slip me again. San Diego State. Those 3 are in. And then Boise is trending towards going in, and then Colorado State's like the wild card, and then that's it. Everybody, I mean, the other ones would have to win the tournament to get in.
There we go.
Yeah, no, Jeffrey. We could have a 14th SEC team in the tournament.
That could happen.
Yeah, no,
the thing is, it's probably likely at this point because the other conferences just keep sucking, like the ACC with Wake and SMU, and it may be North Carolina. I think honestly, North Carolina and Indiana and Ohio State, for that matter, are like your 3 biggest teams that if you want a 14-team SEC tournament, you got to root for them to lose, which I don't want because I want Indiana, North Carolina to
I think
Indiana.
Well, as I always say, don't ever put yourself in a position where you need somebody to win or lose for you. You can't.
Well, I think the thing is, though, is in the case of a 14 bid SEC in the NCAA tournament, like the fact that it's even feasible at all is insane, and it shouldn't even be feasible. But the bubble's so bad and the conference is so good that it's why it's possible.
Well,
there's nothing else that they could do to make it any more feasible. The bubble is so weak. All Georgia and Oklahoma and these other teams gotta do is just win a couple more games, and they're all going to get in.
Well,
honestly, one last thing. Sorry, before Darrell goes. Honestly, the team that has really screwed up their chances the most now that Georgia was the one that was like dead, and they beat Florida, so they're looking a lot better. Texas is the one that's screwing up because they lost the one game you could not lose, and that was South Carolina. That you cannot lose to them. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you wanted a 14-bid SEC, that game hurts. I think Texas might be the one right now, as of now, that probably isn't going to get in, but we'll see.
Well, they play Oklahoma in a game.
Yep.
Here,
If they
short-
lose to Oklahoma, that's a double bubble game, kind of like Texas and
Texas
Arkansas,
is
and you
done.
can't keep losing double bubble games.
They're done. Rodney Terry sucks as a head
Rodney
coach.
Terry's not very good. I mean,
He
it's the same thing as you have a good year following up the previous coach. Jawan Howard did it at Michigan. Terry did it after Beard.
man.
I mean, Howard, that was all Beeline. I don't care. That was all Beeline. That was his entire team. Howard did nothing. Terry's done nothing. Woodson did nothing. It was all Archie players. I mean, again, no. It's not good coaches, man.
Darrell will be seeing you next week, and you have an awesome night and awesome weekend.
And a last thing before Darrell goes, and I know Darrell's, I'm sorry, but I'm on this college basketball kick right now. The thing is Trey Johnson is that entire team. Okay? Rodney Terry is horrid.
Yeah.
Horrid. Trey Johnson. If he doesn't have
this?
Trey Johnson, that guy is 7-20 right now. Trey Johnson had 37 points. 37 points against Arkansas, and they still lost.
I've got an idea because I know Jackson clearly wants to wrap this up. So, Jeffrey, if you want to, anytime, DM me. We'll create a Twitter space. We'll go live on Twitter, and we can talk to your heart's content about college basketball. How's that sound?
That sounds good, Darrell. I'll definitely hit you up if I got some free time. That would be cool.
There you go, man. We'll be seeing you, Darrell. And before we get to the Stump Jeffrey Hour, we'd like to tell you about the sponsorship for the Voice of College Football. Get your business, product, service, or personal brand to the next level by partnering with the Voice of College Football. Let's discuss how you can also reach your target market. Contact the network at sponsorships@Voice of College Football today. And let me tell you something, you're in for a real treat by partnering up with the Voice of College Football. That I can personally guarantee. All right, everyone. We got our next caller. We got my IT guy giving with the Stump Jeffrey hour of the show. How you doing today, Dad?
I'm doing well. Jeffrey, are you okay?
I'm doing good. I'm just having a good time chatting about college sports. It's always fun. Me and Darrell always go back and forth.
Do we need to check your blood pressure?
It might have got a little high. I think I'm good. I appreciate you checking up on me, though. I've gotten more animated than that before. That was kind of tame.
Well, hey, look, not trying to beat a dead horse and get further along in it, but was very pleased to hear your take on NIL and the what do you call it, the tunnel or whatever, because I know Jack's other co-host, Johnny, he's ranted about it, and people, he's not in touch with the younger generation. No, I think the younger generation is in touch with tradition, instead of this crap they're doing now. But that's all I got to say about that. It was a relief to hear you talk about it.
I appreciate it. A lot of people get mad at me too because they're like, "You're not acting like Gen Z. You're acting like a boomer." I'm like, I don't care. It's the way I feel. It's the way I feel. And like you said, more people I think actually do agree. They just don't want to admit it. But
yeah.
They just don't like being on the wrong side. Well, all righty. Well, I will say before we get to questions, ChatGPT got put on blast on the Feinbaum Show and on the Voice of College Football and on.
There you go.
So it's
well, we're gonna test it again here.
Well, we're gonna wait and see. And if they're screwing up like they have been the last 3-4 weeks, I'll be calling Paul Feinbaum Show, chatting it up again.
All right. So I picked these for the Pac-12. I got to get this a little closer. Can't see it. All right. Which team has won the most Pac-12
USC. USC.
Jackson answered before it was over.
Yeah. Isn't that your favorite team there, Jeffrey? USC?
Not USC. I like UNC though. I like North Carolina, not Southern Cal.
What year was the Pac-12 conference officially founded?
Let's see. So
that's Jackson one.
Well, the Pac-12 was 2011. The Pac-10 was 1978.
The Pac-8.
The Pac-8 was think it was around 1959.
And then before that, you had the Pacific Coast Conference, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, it's saying here it was 1915.
That's the Pacific Coast Conference, correct,
Oh,
Jackson?
Lord. Yeah.
Yeah, it counted the Pacific Coast Conference. Didn't it have Idaho in it, right? Didn't it have
Oh,
Idaho?
yeah, they had Idaho.
They went Idaho. When people talk about Tulane leaving the SEC, right? Like Idaho was in, I guess, a power league. I don't know what you want to call it. I don't know what was a power league back then. To now, they're not even in the FBS anymore. They were in the FBS when I was a kid, and they're gone.
That remind me to get you a clip when Jeffrey's talking about teams being mid. Like, it's the funniest thing ever. He just goes, "It's mid. They're mid. They're mid."
All right. So before it was called Pac-12, what was the conference name from 1959 to 2011?
AAW. It was the it was the AAWU, and then it was the Pac-8, Pac-10, Pac-12. It's like they got some weird name changes.
It says here Pac-10.
The thing I liked is at least they were numerically correct, unlike the Big 12 and the Big 10, who literally don't care anymore about the number.
No.
At least the Pac tried to be right. They were right with the number.
All right. What Pac-12 team plays its home games at Autzen Stadium?
Oregon. Remember they said it was built on a trash heap. Remember that?
Oh man.
Yeah, Oregon.
They were like,
"Oh, we got that wrong." I don't think Spaz will let us hear the end of it.
Yeah, it's like they said it was built on a literal landfill. I was like, you got to be kidding me.
All right. Which team played the first ever Pac-12 championship game in 2011?
Oregon and UCLA, because like USC was banned from the postseason in 2011, so UCLA took their spot. And the funny thing was, their head coach Rick Neuheisel was fired. The 2011 Pac-12 title game was the final game of Rick Neuheisel, and Oregon stomped a mud hole inside of UCLA.
Yeah, I would have said Oregon because they were good then, with Chip Kelly. But yeah, UCLA, I wouldn't have got that.
And it was on Fox, and it was on a Friday night.
At what time?
7 p.m. our time.
Yeah, 8. 8 my time, at least.
Who was the commentator?
I think Gus Johnson was calling it.
Jesus.
Yeah, Gus Johnson's been on Fox a while, but I wasn't sure when did he start? Was it like 09, 2010, Jackson? It was somewhere around there.
He went from CBS to Fox, so I think he started with Fox at 2011.
Okay.
I think he was like mixing it up at one point with both of them.
All right. Which Pac-12 team is nicknamed the Sun Devils?
Arizona State. And if they're going to ask when they joined, it was in 1978. Matter of fact, in their first year of the Pac-10, they upset the USC Trojans.
All right. What color is USC Trojans helmet?
Red and gold.
Yep. Jeffrey, you didn't jump on that one.
Yeah, I didn't know if they were gonna say like some weird color name. You got like turquoise for blue, burgundy. So I was like, are they gonna do some like? I remember when you said black and gold, right? And we were like Iowa, and then it wasn't Iowa. So I was like, is ChatGPT gonna say something weird for red? Like, are they gonna go scarlet? I'm like, that's Ohio State. So I was gonna see if Jackson was like, yeah. I mean, I do know they got red and gold, but like I didn't know what they were gonna say.
All right. Which former Pac-12 team won the first ever college football playoff national championship in 2015?
2020 former Pac-12 team that won the national championship 2015. I don't remember a Pac-12 team winning a natty in 2015.
So you're saying nobody did?
Nobody won the natty in the Pac-12. Good
Alabama
grief.
won in 2015.
That's the correct answer. None.
Alabama in the Pac.
Eric Henry.
Man, ChatGPT's doing some stuff they shouldn't be doing off air.
Let's just give me a trick question, Jack.
We're prepared for it.
Just making us think a little bit.
Oh yeah, but we got that Genjutsu ready for him. Shout out to the Naruto fans.
All right. Which Pac-12 rivalry game is played for the Apple Cup?
Washington and
Washington
Washington State.
State.
All right. Which team has a mascot named Ralphie?
Colorado.
Yeah, Colorado.
No, they're out in the Big 12. Nowadays, it's Deion Sanders wearing the cowboy hat, and it's the white one because he's the good guy of the story.
All right. I expect Jeffrey to answer this one. How many national championships has the USC won in football recognized by the NCAA?
Well, there's 1967. 1978 is quite a debate. Is it Alabama or USC? Well, we both share that. I would say it's 11.
Yeah, I was gonna say, could we talked about this that other week, right, Jackson? You remember, because didn't it say 11, right? Remember, and the answer was Minnesota, and then you said USC at 11. So yeah, it's USC.
Oh yeah,
It's 11. Yes, sir.
yep.
USC.
Oh yeah, because I'm looking at it and I see that USC won, 3 national titles in the Great Depression era, like when everybody was depressed. They won a natty the year before the Great Depression started.
Who was the head coach of the 1991 Washington Huskies team that won the national championship?
Don James. I should know this because it was like he learned a lot from Bear Bryant's style, and he showed Bear Bryant a thing or two. Almost upset Alabama in 1978 in Seattle, Washington. And the funny thing is, Nick Saban learned a lot from Don James' style of coaching.
Didn't Washington have the Heisman runner-up in 91?
I think so.
I think they did, because they didn't win the Heisman. They didn't have a player win the Heisman, but he was the runner-up.
Nah.
I think.
All right. Which Pac-12 school was the last to join the conference?
It's Colorado. It's Colorado.
Utah and Colorado were the
There you go, Utah and Colorado.
Yeah, they were the last two.
I just remember all that crap about, Texas and Oklahoma are going to join. And then it was like a year later, we hear the same song and dance. And the Pac-12 was screwing up their whole network deal. They messed up their own network.
Yeah, that ended them.
Oh, yeah.
All right. The Civil War was a rivalry game between
Oregon State.
Oregon State. I mean, and they don't call it that anymore for I don't even know if it's an obvious reason. I mean, I get it, I guess, but not really. I mean, like the Civil War, it's just a cool name. I mean, it doesn't even have to be about like the American Civil War. It could just be a civil war, So
Right.
like, I like the name. I've always thought it was cool, but yeah, they technically don't call it that anymore.
Yeah, too woke. All right, who won the 2014 Pac-12 championship game?
Oh, Oregon beat Arizona in a rematch. Because I should remember, because it was like week 6 of the regular season where Arizona beat Oregon.
Marcus Mariota, right?
Yep. And Scooby Wright was on that Arizona team. And Arizona.
Scooby Wright, yeah, the USFL legend.
Oh, he got plenty of Scooby snacks that year. So there we go. And it was on Thursday night on ESPN.
Which team has played the most Rose Bowls?
USC, obviously.
Yep.
You got the most championships. You probably have the most Rose Bowls. Probably.
What stadium did the UCLA Bruins call home?
Rose Bowl.
Rose Bowl. People call it the toilet bowl now. It's like, it's not that bad. It's just because you can't fill it. I mean, that's on you, UCLA. You can't fill it.
Which former
They're happy they don't ever have to go to Arizona anymore. Note to self, next time UCLA goes to the state of Arizona, bet on Arizona and put it on a parlay if you can.
All right, Jeffrey. Which former Oregon quarterback won the Heisman Trophy in 2014?
Mariota.
Marcus Mariota. People thought he was going to have a great NFL career. Didn't really pan out, but he did make, a good living though. He was a good backup for a long time, starter for brief.
There you go.
All right. What year did Stanford last win the Rose Bowl?
Let's see. It was the 2015 season where they smacked Iowa off the face of the earth.
Yeah, that
Brent Musburger reunited with Kirk Herbstreit to call that game.
this one Stanford was still good. I mean, they were really good when I was a kid. I mean, they've just completely fallen off.
It says here 2013.
What? Come on.
Yeah, Jackson would know on that one. I mean, I'm not
know.
going to debate that.
Yeah,
he knows dates.
Stanford beat Wisconsin in 2013 Rose Bowl. 2016 Rose Bowl, Stanford smacked Iowa. Iowa, for some reason, cannot win a major bowl game. I mean, the only major bowl game
Iowa is the definition of 9-4. They are consistent.
Oh, yeah.
They just do what they're supposed to do. They're just slightly like fringe top 25.
Man, that's mid. So mid.
All right. Which team did Arizona State defeat in the 1997 Rose Bowl?
Let me see. No, they lost. They lost in their bowl game to Ohio State. I remember that. Ohio State didn't beat Michigan.
It was a trick question.
Yeah. I was ready for it. They're not slick.
All right. Which Pac-12 team played the first ever college football playoff title game?
Oregon,
Ohio State.
All right. What year did the Pac-12 officially expand from 10 to 12?
2011, July 1st. But they made the announcement in June of 2010.
And it didn't change anything about the conference.
Yep.
Who's the all-time leading passer in Pac-12 history?
Ooh, multiple choices. Because I'm thinking, I think I've got this one, but I just have to remember the names a little bit.
All right. Matt Leinart or Leinart?
Matt Leinart.
Matt Leinart.
Yep.
Andrew Luck, Luke Falk, Marcus Marietta.
I think it's fault because of the fact that he was a Mike Leach protege. Because, I mean, it has to be.
Yeah, it was. It was Falk.
I thought that's who it was.
All right. What Pac-12 team has the fewest conference championships?
Ooh. Washington State.
What do you think, Jeffrey?
It's either Washington State or Oregon State.
Yeah,
it says Oregon State.
Oregon State. I don't know which one's right, but it's one of those two because they don't win anything.
Well, and I remember like the last time they were in the Rose Bowl was the 1963 season, and they lost that one. And I believe the last time they won a Rose Bowl was the 1942 Rose Bowl, which I mean,
it's like 83 years ago.
I mean, they went from Pasadena to Wallace Wade State for, well, obvious reasons.
All right, who was the last Pac-12 team to make the college football playoff?
Washington.
What was the largest margin of victory in the Pac-12 championship game?
I'm gonna have to go with Oregon's victory over UCLA in 2011.
By how much?
Oof. Oh man, it's gonna take me a minute, but it was around the 30s. But UCLA was horrible.
39.
Oh.
Pretty close. Basically right.
Yeah. especially with Chat GPT, right?
Yeah.
All right, which Pac-12 team is the only one to defeat Alabama in the national championship game?
I remember a Pac-12 team beating Alabama in the national title game in the playoff era.
So your answer is what? None?
Trick question.
Yeah, it's none.
Yeah, I didn't think so either. I mean, like maybe like historically, I mean, I wouldn't know that, but I mean, yeah, it doesn't seem right.
Who has the longest tenure head coach in the Pac-12 history?
Okay, there's Kush from Arizona State, but he was there when they just showed up. There's Mike Bellotti. He was there from 1995 to 2008. Rich Brooks was 1977 to 1994. After he got Oregon to the Rose Bowl for the 1994 season, he left for the St. Louis Rams. I'm shooting for Rich Brooks, but let's see the multiple choice.
All right, you got your choices between Don James, Terry Donahue, Chip Kelly, and Mike Bellotti.
Wow.
Chip Kelly's not it.
No. I don't know though. I just know it's not Chip Kelly because he
Okay,
wasn't.
Don James was there from 1975 to 92. So I'm going to shoot for Don James.
It's saying Terry Donahue.
Terry Donahue. Huh.
Never
Yeah,
heard of him.
I would have had.
I remember him, but it's just like I didn't think he was there longer than Don James. He went for the NFL.
All right, what was the final score of the 2005 USC versus Texas national championship game?
Oh man, the Rose Bowl where Vince Young got the game-winning score, and
Vince
that
Young was a legend, man. People like, oh, he got the coach fired in the NFL. Like in college, he was electric. He was electric.
Man, and it was a 48-38 victory, and it was a way to end Keith Jackson's broadcasting career.
It says 41-38.
Oh.
But damn, that's good.
Yeah, I mean, because like
I
those,
was about to say like 41-35 because I remember the game was in the latter 30s. I remember the game from highlights. Obviously, I didn't watch it live. I was like 1.
Which Pac-12 quarterback threw the most yards in a single season?
I'm guessing Luke Falk.
Yeah, Falk again. Yeah.
Yeah, Luke Falk or somebody from Washington State under Mike Leach, somebody like Gardner Minshew. But let's see the multiple choice answers.
All right, multiple choice: Marcus Mariota, Jared Goff or Joff,
Jared Goff.
Luke Falk or Carson Palmer.
I'm going with Falk.
It was Joff.
Oh, Goff.
Jared Goff got like so the other game. Well, the other question said it was Falk, and that was about most passing. So I guess they were worded differently.
Oh man, let's take a look at Luke Falk for a moment. Let's take a look at him.
I know Jared Goff had a lot of yards that season at Cal. Wait, so the other question, hey Jackson, didn't the other question say with Falk that it was his career, whereas that was single season? Was that the difference? I don't know. I'm not sure.
Let's look.
I'll go back to Luke Falk. It said who was the all-time leading passer in Pac-12 history.
Okay, yeah, all time,
Yeah.
like the full stats. But then Goff must have had the most in a season, I guess. Yeah, that makes sense, I guess.
Okay.
If GPT is correct, we'll see. I don't know.
Yeah, it's asking with Goff. It's asking what quarterback threw the most yards in a single season.
Yeah, because he didn't have like the most extensive career at Cal. He just had that big year. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Go. Hold on. Let me see. Okay, so it's Oh, I'm not gonna keep you guys waiting.
All good.
All right, what's the official name of the annual USC versus UCLA rivalry
Victory
game?
Bell.
Victory Bell, yeah. Mhm.
Which Pac-12 team's colors are cardinal and gold?
Cardinal and Gold USC.
That's what I was saying. The name, the wording. Like, I knew they were going to pull something eventually.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't immediately say
I
red
don't-
and gold.
I think they must have seen they must have seen that Paul Feinbaum clip from Tuesday's episode of the show, and they're like, we don't like being put on blast. Well, I'm gonna put you on blast, Mark ChatGPT.
All right, which former Pac-12 quarterback won the Heisman Trophy in 2022?
Well, let's see. Oh man. Wait. I remember Jane Daniels won the Heisman in
Caleb Williams?
2023. It has to be Caleb Williams. But it's like
It's Caleb.
Yep, it has to be. Because I mean, because I'll be honest with you, I remember USC losing to Utah twice and losing to Tulane more than I do that apparently. Because like I should know because I was like the only one out of literally everybody that I knew that went with Tulane before the game even started. I was like, Tulane's gonna be ready for USC. Nobody's opting out of Tulane. And USC's defense is putrid.
No, it was awful.
I had the point margin right, but I was a little bit off on the final score, but I'll have to double check.
All right, which Pac-12 school has the mascot Oski the Bear?
Cal.
Cow.
They're terrible.
What's the name of Oregon's mascot?
Oh, man.
The duck.
What are the multiple choices? Let's hear them. I think we can narrow it down some.
Puddles, Quacky, Duckster, and Beaky.
Quacky.
Quacky, I guess.
Nah, it's Puddles.
Puddles? What?
I just know him as the duck.
That's terrible.
Puddles.
He's too grown to be named Puddles.
Like it's sad if I know Oski and Ralphie, but Puddles. Oh boy.
Which team was the first from Pac-12 to make the college football playoff?
Oregon. That's the second time they asked that question.
It's saying if we're gonna get it wrong this time.
Which two schools played for the Territorial Cup?
Arizona and
Arizona
State.
State.
They've been partners together from the days of the WAC to the days of the Pac to the days of the Big 12.
The whack and the pack sounds cool.
What was unique about the 2011 Pac-12 championship game between Oregon and UCLA?
UCLA was in there because USC was banned from the postseason.
I was saying here UCLA had a losing record.
Well, that too, but
Oh man.
Who was the head coach for USC during the Reggie Bush era?
Pete Carroll.
Pete Carroll.
He's now a Raider.
What Pac-12 team had the longest Rose Bowl drought before winning in 2019?
Oh man, 2019 Rose Bowl. I know Washington played Ohio State, but they lost that one. Oh man, it's taking me a while. I remember Oklahoma and Georgia played in the 2018 Rose Bowl,
Mm-hmm.
but Georgia won that one. Ah, man, 2020 Rose Bowl. Oregon won a tight one, so it would have to be Oregon.
It's saying Utah.
I don't remember Utah winning a Rose Bowl.
Yeah,
Well, I didn't say it won. Well, yeah, it did. Yeah, it did. Just said who had the longest Rose Bowl drought.
I know that in their major bowl games recently, they lost to Ohio State and they lost to Penn State.
Mm-hmm.
And both of them, Cam Rising was hurt.
Yep.
All right, who holds the Pac-12 record for the most rushing yards in a season.
Reggie Bush.
Yeah, it's got to be Reggie Bush.
It's saying J.J. Arrington.
Oh. Okay.
It's
I'm
no
like,
way,
it was like
son.
Reggie Bush is the most popular one. I mean, in the whole Heisman situation, I was like, it's got to be him. Crazy.
There you go.
All right, which Pac-12 team has the most conference titles after USC?
Oh man, it would have to. I don't think it'd be Oregon, but let's hear.
Washington,
It's got to be Washington, but let's hear the choices.
Stanford, Washington, UCLA, and Oregon.
Washington.
Washington. It's got to be.
It says Stanford.
Well, yeah. I mean, it does make sense. They won during the Great Depression, and they won.
I guess. I mean, I was like, Washington's a better program, but I mean, sure, Stanford. I mean, they're nothing now.
No.
All right, who won the Pac-12 championship in 2023?
2023 was Washington over Oregon because I remember watching it on ABC, and I watched that game. That was a good one. And then we watched the Oregon post game show from Ben and Spaz.
Yeah,
on
that
Oregon
one
at
that was
Voice
the
Football.
rematch, right? When everybody was
Mhm.
like, Oregon was gonna win. Yeah.
Yep. And the
Yeah.
funny thing was, Chris Fowler and Kirk Herbstreit were there both times. Kirk had a little puppy dog with him.
All right, in the 2010 BCS National Championship game, Oregon lost to which SEC team?
Oregon lost to Auburn in the 2011 BCS national title. I mean, Michael Dyer made that huge run. Auburn kids game winning field goal. Auburn's ends that 53-year national title drought.
All right, what is the nickname for Oregon versus Washington rivalry?
Ooh, that's a good one. I mean, they're basically like the Northwest equivalent of the Alabama-Tennessee rivalry.
I could be wrong. Is it the border war?
No, I don't think so.
Jack almost said it just a second ago.
We're
He
going to
came
have to
close.
hear the choices.
All right. Cascade Clash, the Pacific War, the Border Battle, or the Northwest Rivalry?
The first one, the
The
Cascade
Cascade
Clash.
one.
It's saying Northwest Rivalry.
What?
I swear that it's the border war, though. Isn't it, Jackson? It's not?
No.
Isn't there one called the border war?
There is a rivalry called Border War.
Kansas, Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And that's coming back on September 6, 2025 to a network near you, announced 3 days before Memorial Day.
Wait a minute, though. Wait a minute. Wait, I gotta cry a little bit of foul here. A little bit of foul on GPT. Here's the border war, right here.
All right, while y'all
Yeah.
discuss that, I'm going to fix my contact.
Border war, Kansas, Missouri, Colorado State, Wyoming, Oregon, Washington.
What?
The border war. I knew it because when I played NCAA college football on one of my old video game consoles, it said the Oregon Washington rivalry was the border war. I remembered it from the game, so kind of was right. Let's be honest, kind of right, because you are right that Kansas, Missouri is the most well-known border war. But Colorado State, Wyoming is even called the border war. But yeah, Oregon, Washington,
God.
technically is the border war. So I kind of feel a little vindicated on that one. Have you the Northwest rivalry? What?
I know, right?
Never been called that.
It's basically I call it like the Northwest equivalent of Alabama Tennessee because I'm old enough to remember where it was like people didn't care about Oregon Washington because it was like a free win for Oregon, but then Washington ends the losing streak 2016, and nowadays people can't quit talking about it. They can't quit talking about Oregon Washington. It's like, oh, you should go back to the days of 2013 for a little bit. Good grief.
Sorry about that.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
My
Yeah, so
contact
I
slid.
saw the border war is the Oregon-Washington rivalry, and it is also called the Cascade Clash. So we were right on that first one, Jackson. We were right. So technically, it's both. I mean, it's because some rivalries can have two different names. So I don't know. Chat GPT being weird.
All right, so here we go. All right, which Pac-12 schools has produced the most Super Bowl winning quarterbacks?
Cal.
Not Cal, I don't think. It would have to be somebody like USC, but let's hear the choices.
It's either USC or Cal because Cal's had good quarterbacks, but it's either USC or Cal. Yeah.
All right, your choices are USC, UCLA, Stanford, and Washington.
It's USC.
It's got to be
Yep.
USC.
I'm surprised Cal wasn't one of the options because they've had good quarterbacks. So,
Well, I mean,
Aaron Rodgers, he counts because he was at Cal. I know
Yeah.
that. Like they've had success with quarterbacks, but yeah, it's USC for sure. I mean,
Yeah. All right,
Yeah.
what team's gone the longest without winning a Pac-12 title?
Ooh,
Oregon
It's
State
Oregon
or Washington
State.
State. Probably
Oregon State, because it's like because like 1963 was the last season where they went to a Rose Bowl. And 2008, they almost won the Pac-10 because, I mean, yeah, they lost to Utah, Penn State. But they did have that big win over USC on Thursday Night Football from September 25th of 2008 on ESPN. But
Well, you're probably right, but it's saying Arizona.
Arizona, well, I don't think I don't remember them being in a Rose Bowl since they joined the pack. So,
All right,
but I think Oregon State's is longer.
who was the last non-USC Pac-12 team to win an AP national championship?
Let's see, it's Washington. It has to be Washington because Oregon's never won at all.
You know what year?
1991.
Yeah, it's the 91 season when they had the Heisman runner-up.
Mm-hmm.
All right, what is the coldest Pac-12 team game ever recorded?
Ooh. It's got to be Washington
Yeah.
State, but let's hear the multiple
It's gotta
choice.
be because like literally it's freezing up there.
All right, Utah versus Colorado, the Apple Cup, the Alamo Bowl, or Civil War?
Oh,
Yeah, I'm going Washington.
I was watching Utah, Colorado on like it was like on Pac-12 Network, and it was snowing. It was like the week before rivalry week. I think like somebody had it on their parlay that year, and it was just freezing snowing on November 17th of 2018. So maybe Utah, Colorado.
It was before you were born, the Apple Cup, 1991.
Oh,
Yeah,
well,
it had to be to me Washington State because it's. I mean, I guess with the mountains it could be colder, but
yeah.
All right, who was the Pac-12 player selected in the NFL draft in 2023?
Well, it wasn't Caleb Williams because he was selected in 2024 by the Bears. And this is 2023 guy?
Yeah.
And what position?
It didn't give me that.
Oh no, that's just so wrong.
I give you some choices. Michael Penix Jr., Bo Nix, Caleb Williams, or Christian Gonzalez.
It's got to be Christian Gonzalez because Penix was drafted in 2024. Nix was drafted in 2024. Williams was drafted in 2024. Gonzalez, 2023.
Yep. All right, that's all the questions I have.
it's like Jackson deciphering through it. It's like 2024. It's got to be that one. It's like ChatGPT tries to trick you. It really does, but and then sometimes we outsmart it. You know.
There you go. Oh, and we're gonna put ChatGPT on blast. Don't you worry.
And rest in peace to the Pac-12. I'm glad we were able to do a segment on the Pac-12. I still miss it. I miss the league, but they did themselves in with all their poor decisions for sure.
Oh, and if you want to put ChatGPT on blast on the Paul Feinbaum show at 2 p.m. through 6 p.m. Central Time, Mondays through Fridays, call 855-242-7285. And there you can tell Paul Feinbaum about how bad ChatGPT is at researching the history of college football.
Yeah, but just be careful. He seems to think that Jackson and I were arguing over it.
Oh boy.
It shows you how much he pays attention to his callers.
Yeah. That's typical of a lot of hosts, right?
Yeah.
Me and Jackson, we try to pay attention. We're a little bit more alert.
I called the Feinbaum show a couple of weeks ago, and I was talking about like Florida State. This was like the week before Valentine's Day, I believe. And I was talking about where he talked about where Florida State was garbage. And I cited his interview where he was on First Take of August. It was on a Monday for 2024, a little bit before the kickoff week 0. And I remember where he said, thank you for the call. I don't ever want to get on your wrong side. And then I'm watching the Feinbaum show. The 3 days later, I see a substitute co-host. I'm like, I didn't give the man a heart attack, did I? And then I watched the show Wednesday, and I'm like, okay, thank God he's back. Yeah, Iman's gone through a lot of stuff. I'll make sure to keep an eye on his GoFundMe. I gotta keep an eye on that. He's been sick lately, so we'll be praying for him. He's in our hearts. Jen from Tuscaloosa is funny, but oh man, it's like I remember that call that I made on. It was March of 2024, where I'm just sitting here, right here in this office, and he's just like yelling at Paul. He's like, "You're a weasel, Paul. You stupid, Paul." And I'm just sitting here like, are you ever gonna get to me, bro? It's like, hello, I'm in the line. But yeah, if you ever call on the show, and this was the key that my dad gave me, no small talk. No small talk, just come straight right out with your take. That's
Yeah, because he doesn't like small talk. He'll cut you off quick if you're like, "Hey, how are you?" And yeah, you got to jump in right away with your points, and he'll keep you on there a little longer and talk with you.
Yeah.
Well,
Other people are a bit more, I don't know if down to earth is the right term, but just like more chill. But some people, yeah, it's like they want what like you're ultimately going to say. Like some people will take like 10 minutes to finally get to their point. It's like, no.
Exactly.
And that's not really how you're supposed to run a show. Like you're supposed to keep it going. I mean, at rapid fire. So it is fair, but that's just the way some people are. Like I got a couple people I know that they never get to the point until like 10, 15 minutes. This is originally what I was going to talk about. It's like, then why don't you say it?
Yeah.
That's just the way they are. You can't hate on them because that's just their style. I mean, everybody's different. So.
But in the meantime, you're trying to stay awake, waiting for the point to come.
Oh man.
All right. Well, I got to get to work, guys.
Stay safe, stay warm in Poland, man. Make sure you got plenty of blankets.
Always love the trivia questions. It's always been fun.
I'm glad you're not dealing with allergy season in Bama. It just like, again, the weird weather, it just won't stick to something at the very least. And we need rain badly.
Well, it's warmed up a little bit here. I think it's like 40 degrees the high. But it rained last night. It's really wet out there now. But, I wish I could get that 70-degree weather y'all have got.
Wow. Yeah, I definitely been enjoying the 70-degree weather. Like, got shorts back. It's nice. At 40's not too bad though. That's not terrible, honestly.
Yeah. Well, as long as the wind's not blowing, it's not bad.
For sure.
See, where I work is near an airport, and there's a lot of wind over there, so it can get pretty chilly.
I can imagine.
There we go.
I agree with Troy.
There you go.
Yes.
You know what's up.
I know those people. The long story short people. I
Yes.
never say that. Like that's why, like when me and Darrell, like, yeah, I might need maybe some blood to check my blood pressure or whatever, but like I'm getting my points across. Like I'm not like. And long story short, I feel like this is a problem of college. No, I'm just like this is a problem. I don't like it. What are your thoughts? Like let's go. Like it's just easier that way.
Or the other thing they like to say. Well, I said all that to say this.
Then what was the point of all that?
Exactly.
It's great.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man.
It's hilarious.
All right, guys.
We're not gonna hold you up much longer, man. And yeah, have an awesome day and have an awesome Friday. And we talk to you soon, man.
All right. Y'all have a good night. Sleep well.
Appreciate it.
We'll talk to y'all soon. All
All
right.
right.
Sounds
Stay
good.
safe,
Good
stay
night.
Have a
warm.
good one.
Man, that was a fun session. ChatGPT.
Absolutely, man. On the dead conference, the Pac-12. Rest in peace. You will be missed. I understand that it's coming back. I get it, but it will never be the same. I don't care. It is dead. The Pac-12 is dead. You can
It's
keep
not
the
like the
name,
new
but it won't be
Big
the
East.
same.
It's not like the new biggies. No. The Pac-12 is looking like a crap heap.
No, I mean, at least the new Big East is something.
Yeah.
It's legit.
It just has no Syracuse.
Yeah.
But that's it. But if you wanna call the Fine Ball Show tomorrow afternoon at 2 p.m. Central Time through 6 p.m. Central Time or 3 to 7 Eastern Time tomorrow and put ChatGPT on blast, here is the number. And let me tell you, man, but when you call the Fine Ball Show, get straight to the point, no small talk. And Paul will definitely learn about Alabama with the voice of college football, and he's going to learn a lot about the voice of college football. We're going to get him on at the voice of college football, or we're going to get Mark or one of us at the voice of college football as a guest on there. That we can guarantee.
Absolutely. I will say again, on it's the Mountain West rebranded. Yeah, that's why they literally should have just moved them to the Mountain West. I mean, take two teams, Washington State and Oregon State, move them to the Mountain West, call it a day. Instead, you're going to move all those Mountain West teams to join the two teams that were from the Pac-12 and call that the Pac-12. That's more convoluted, more complicated, and just flat out doesn't make sense. But you know what? The ACC's got Pacific Coast teams. The Big Ten's got 18 teams. The Big 12's got 16. It's all broken. It doesn't make sense. So, of course, college football is going to do that.
Yes, he is, Case John one of our
Absolutely.
YouTube members of Alabama with the voice of college football. Your dad is awesome. Thank you for his service. Yes, he did. He was in the Kuwait War in 89 through 94, I believe. And
That's
he was
awesome.
in Iraq, and he was in the start of the Iraq War and then got out at 2010.
Mhm.
And I can tell you right now, I've got some
Definitely
feelings
appreciate his
about the
service. That's a
war.
long time, man. That's a
Yeah.
long time. It's dangerous. I mean, so many sad stories of
The trash.
of
It's just
war. So
wrong
definitely.
putting people in war zones that
Yeah.
certain people aren't gonna. But we know who those people are. They're slimy figures that you see on cable news,
Everybody that you see on cable news.
especially the way they smile. And I think those people, we can decipher those people.
Mm.
But alrighty then. Come on into the Voice College Football X account /Twitter, where you can get the top-notch discussion, debate, and analysis for all college football with no off season. And we are getting closer to football season starting back up. Let me tell you, we're breaking the fourth wall inside of 16th wall yet again. There we go. Let's go.
Don't you just love doing that every week, Jackson?
I love that. That's my favorite part of the show. One of my favorite parts. And there's the Michigan call-in show with our guy TJ Ronan and our guy Garrison Gaddy on the Ohio State call-in show. Our guy Matt Green at Georgia at the Voice of College Football. He may have a new co-host real soon. Tune in for that. Oh, there's our guys Mid-Major Matt and Jack Fitzpatrick on Virginia Tech at the Voice of College Football. Stephen M. Smith who used to be at Touchdown Alabama did a little video, couple videos with Mark Rogers, giving out some spring previews for the offense, the running back, and the quarterback preview. Those are some videos you want to check out on Alabama with the Voice of College Football. And there's news. Our guy Nate, who is the new host of Illinois at the Voice of College Football. Jordan and Tiger Paul Craven, another fantastic show like always. And much, much more. And you can get more of the excellence from the Voice of College Football on Instagram, where you can get the top discussion, debate, and analysis. Looky here. There's Pat Stewart getting hired by Nebraska, and there's Matt Rule's quote about Big Ten schedule, Lena Tough non-con foe. Our friend Leanne Herring, who Mark has referred to as the Patrick Mahomes of the Voice of College Football. She's just all out on the recruiting trail. She is a go-to. So check her out on recruiting at the Voice College Football Tuesday afternoons and on Ole Miss at the Voice College Football with her and Ruby Dreyer Finley, who Ruby Dreyer Finley, by the way, does some magnificent work behind the scenes for College Game Day. So I can tell you, it's a wild ride. Well, Jeffrey, I think it's going to be time to go here in a little bit. What have you got going on in your world this week, man?
Definitely excited about seeing the rest of the regular season for Alabama basketball. That's going to be a lot of fun. Cannot wait to talk more about March Madness. Maybe see if we can get that Twitter space going with the real if we have the time. That would be really cool. But me and Will definitely going to try to bring the show back soon if possible on that front. On my YouTube channel, Only Talk Sports. If you have not subscribed yet to my YouTube channel, Only Talk Sports, would definitely appreciate it. Getting very close to 3,000 subs. Your guys' support will definitely help. I always appreciate you guys tuning in, whether here on Alabama at the Voice of College Football or over at Only Talk Sports. And also Indiana at the Voice of College Football. Every Tuesday night I'm talking the Hoosiers, 7 o'clock Eastern time. That's always a blast. I know, again, Indiana is not one of the biggest teams out there, but still, there's Indiana fans that love watching, their Hoosiers. So, you're definitely going to enjoy that show. And even if you're not an Indiana fan, appreciate it if you go check that out as well. And always Thursday nights with Jackson doing the Collins show at Alabama Voice of College Football. Always a blast.
There we go, man. The solo layout kind of brings back the old days of Only Talk Sports, doesn't it?
Yeah, it kind of does. Looks just like it.
Oh, man. Well, we always like to spotlight the co-host and everybody else on Alabama with the Voice of College Football and so on and so forth. Well, as for me, I've got an upcoming episode of the Jacksonian coming up, and his name is J.R. Rhodes. He is the host of the Big Ten Huddle, the contributor to the Ohio podcast. And I believe he's a contributor for Ohio State at the Voice of College Football. Does great work. He is a go-to. I recommend you check him out if you want Big Ten analysis for football and basketball and so on and so forth. But, of course, you can check me out on Jackson Johnson 979 on YouTube, where I'm 105 subs away from that magic number 500. I'm getting closer and closer. I'll need some help getting there. And I'll definitely need some help getting to 1,000 for sure. That's going to be a fun one. And, of course, I've got an upcoming episode of the Jacksonian likely coming next week. And I've got the lead writer of Aggie's Wire, Cam. He's a friend of the Voice of College Football. His name is Cameron, and I can tell you, he's a genius. And if you want more updates on Alabama with the Voice of College Football and on the Jat scene, check me out on JacksonVOCFB on X/Twitter and on Instagram and Threads at Jackson Johnson 543908. And with that being said, we wish you all a good night. But first, we want you to like, comment, subscribe, and click on the notification bell for Alabama with the Voice of College Football so you never miss no video whatsoever. We are 61 subs away from 2,600 subs. We are, which I believe, 3,000 minus 2,539. That's 461 subs away. We are 461 subs away from getting to 3,000. But we want to get to 4,000 subs before Texas does. Because, I mean, Texas may have gotten to the playoffs. They may have been the lone SEC team, but they ain't Bama. They ain't Bama. No, you're not. With that being said, we wish you all a good night. Sleep well. Stay safe. Stay away from that pollen. And roll
Tide.